Chapter 2054. Hun Yuanzi stared at Fengjiu, then turned to look at Zhuo Junyue beside him. His expression turned strange. This little girl kept staring at the block of wood. He was sure that even if she agreed to go with him, it was because of this block of wood. Could it be that she had taken a liking to him? He stroked his beard at the thought of him, and his wise eyes darted around. Thus, the one-man party became a three-man party. Fengjiu and Hun Yuanzi sat on their mounts and slowly walked into the forest, while Zhuo Junyue followed beside them. They chatted along the way. "Little girl, I'm wearing men's clothes now, so don't call me a little girl. Just call me Xiaojiu," Fengjiu said as she looked ahead. "All right, then let me ask you, who did I learn Taiji fist from? Is it your master?" The old man looked at her excitedly. This little girl could execute such a fist technique so skillfully. She wasn't simple at all. Fengjiu looked at him with a strange expression. "Do you have to ask which chicken laid an egg when you want to eat it?" The old man choked on his words and was instantly rendered speechless. Fengjiu looked past him and fixed her gaze on Zhuo Junyue. "Who else is in your family?" What was better and faster than asking the person herself for information? Hearing this, the old man widened his eyes and stared at Fengjiu with a strange expression. He thought to himself, why is this little girl asking about this so openly? Even if she's interested in that block of wood, she shouldn't be so direct. Thus, he coughed lightly and said, "Why don't you ask me what you want to know?" This old man knows his situation better than anyone else. He straightened his back and looked at Fengjiu with a look that seemed to say, "Come and ask me, come and ask me." The old man saw that she was ignoring him, so he couldn't help but say he has two parents in his family. He has a grandmother and a pair of younger siblings. He's 27 this year, and most importantly, he's not married yet. Fengjiu's eyes flickered. "Oh, grandmother is here too? Then where is his home?" This time, she looked at Han Yuanzi. "It's in Wanxiang City. Wanxiang City's Zhuo family. Just ask around and you'll know. It's not far from 100 River City," the old man said with a smile. Zhuo Junyue glanced at the old man, speechless. He knew exactly what the old man was planning. He didn't know what was going on, so he was just spouting nonsense. Fengjiu nodded. "Yes, I understand." She took out her wine gourd and drank a mouthful of wine. "So it was the Zhuo family of Wanxiang City. Xiaojiu, why are you so curious about him? Could it be that you've taken a fancy to him?" The old man looked at Fengjiu with a smile and asked. Hearing this, Fengjiu, who was drinking a mouthful of wine, choked. Cough, cough. She coughed and glared at primordial chaos. "What are you talking about? How is this possible?" "Impossible?" The old man looked askance at her in disbelief. He obviously didn't believe her. "It's impossible. I have a fiancé, and we're just short of getting married." Fengjiu explained helplessly. What was this old man thinking? How could she be interested in Zhuo Junyue? What nonsense! Zhuo Junyue also glanced at the old man, his expression ugly. "You have a fiancé? Then why are you asking about him?" The old man asked strangely. This girl was so outstanding. What kind of man would she like? He couldn't help but be curious. Chapter 2055. The three of them walked into the forest and chatted for a while. Since Zhuo Junyue didn't speak much, Fengjiu didn't ask any more questions. The journey was quite peaceful. Before the beasts in the forest could get close, they were scared away by the aura of their mounts. They didn't even need to fight. Until noon, when they stopped to rest and took out rations from the space to eat, a group of mercenaries came to rest nearby. When the mercenaries saw the three of them, they were surprised. They sized up the three of them and recognized that the old man was the Nebula Immortal Sect's Master Han Yuan. As for the other two, they didn't know who they were. "It's Han Yuan from the Nebula Immortal Sect. Leader, should we go and greet him?" A mercenary asked the leader. "Since we've met, it's better to greet him." As the mercenary group leader spoke, he glanced behind him and said to everyone, "You guys rest here. I'll go ahead and greet them." Among the 30 to 40 mercenaries resting here, there was a tall and muscular man wearing a mercenary uniform who was eating rations. If Fengjiu saw him, he would be overjoyed. This was because this person was none other than Guan Shilin, who went out to train after coming here. The leader didn't get too close. Instead, he cupped his fists and bowed. Hun Yuan, immortal lord. I didn't expect to meet you here. Seeing that he was recognized, Hun Yuan looked at the mercenary in surprise. How do you know this old man? I don't think we've met before. Immortal Lord naturally doesn't know me. However, I was fortunate enough to see Immortal Lord once. The mercenary smiled. Back then, I met Immortal Lord and saw Immortal Lord saving people. It's still fresh in my memory. Hearing this, Hun Yuan smiled and stroked his beard. He glanced at Fengjiu. So that's how it is. This old man has a kind heart. When I was outside, I often saved people. After saving so many people, I don't remember it. Fengjiu didn't react. He just ate his rations and didn't say anything. After chatting with Hun Yuan for a while, the leader cupped his fists and left. Immortal Lord, my mercenary team is resting nearby. I'll go back first. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Go. The old man nodded and watched the mercenary group leader leave. Then, he looked at Fengjiu with a smile. How is it, little girl? Did you see it? This old man is very popular. You should learn from me. Save people when you go out. You'll meet someone you know. Maybe you'll meet someone you've saved. Let's go after resting. I've been here for so long, but I haven't seen a single Fires Park stone. Fengjiu stood up, patted her green clothes, and mounted Tunyun's back. What's the rush? I'm not in a hurry. Although he said that, he still got on the back of his contracted beast and walked beside her. Zhuo Junyue continued to follow quietly without saying anything. Not long after they left, the mercenary team was about to continue their journey after resting when they heard rustling sounds. Then, a sinister laugh sounded. Ha 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 ha. Another mercenary team. What a waste of effort. Chapter 2056. When the mercenary group's leader saw the 60 to 70 people surrounding them, a grave expression appeared on his face. It's the Death Mercenary Group? Hearing the leader's words, the expressions of all the mercenaries changed slightly. They were also mercenary groups, so they had heard a little about the Death Mercenary Group. According to rumors, the members of the Death Mercenary Group specialized in plundering and robbing in this forest. In addition, they would also recruit other mercenaries into their mercenary group. If they didn't submit to them, there was only one outcome, and that was death. What caused their expressions to change was that these people's cultivations weren't weak, especially their combat strengths. Practically no one who encountered this Death Mercenary Group was able to survive. Seeing the 60 to 70 mercenaries of the Death Mercenary Group wearing uniform dark brown mercenary uniforms surrounding them, the mercenary group's leader calmed down and shouted in a deep voice, "Get ready to fight." Although the ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group only had 30 to 40 people, all of them were men. It wasn't that they hadn't tried to fight a situation where they were outnumbered, but they had never fought the Death Mercenary Group. Yes, the members of the ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group drew their weapons and prepared to fight at any time. They only had a moment of seriousness when they learned that the other party was the Death Mercenary Group, but now, every one of them firmly held the weapons in their hands and prepared to fight at any time. Seeing the strong battle intent on these people, the leader of the Death Mercenary Group couldn't help but narrow his eyes and size them up. What? Aren't you afraid of death? Ha ha! We haven't even fought, and you already know who's going to die? The leader of the ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group raised his head and laughed heroically. We've never been afraid of anyone. If you want to fight, then come. He, ignorant. The leader of the Death Mercenary Group sneered and stared at those people. He saw that these people were excellent mercenary seedlings, so he immediately issued an invitation. As long as you submit to our Death Mercenary Group and become mercenaries under my command, not to mention your lives, even your families will be able to eat and drink well with us. How about it? The leader of the ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group's face darkened. Don't waste your breath. The mercenaries under my command aren't cowards who are afraid of death. Hearing this, the members of the Death Mercenary Group were surprised when they saw that none of the mercenaries were moved. At the same time, they also felt a trace of admiration. These people were all men. Since that's the case, then let's fight. There's no need to waste your breath on them. With an order, the 60 to 70 mercenaries surged forward and surrounded the 30 to 40 mercenaries in the middle. For a moment, the glint of swords' sword light flew, and piercing cold sword chi whistled in the forest. The sound of battle resounded, and the airflow in this area was affected by their battle. Although the Ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group, the Death Mercenary Group, Ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group, was the Ferocious Death Son, this Deathus. Among the mercenaries, Guan Shilin was mercilessly swinging his huge blade. His fighting strength was astonishing. Anyone who got close to him would either have their head chopped off, their arms chopped off, or they would be chopped in half by his blade. Chapter 2057. It was precisely because of this that a strange phenomenon gradually occurred. In this chaotic battle of over 100 people, not a single member of the Death Mercenaries appeared beside Guan Shilin. He brandished his saber and frowned as he slammed the saber hilt into the ground. He saw that there was no one beside him, while the others were besieged by several or even more Death Mercenaries. Seeing that the members of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenaries were all injured and fighting a bloody battle, he knew that this couldn't go on, so he turned his gaze to the leader of the Death Mercenaries. He saw that the leader of the Death Mercenaries was fighting with their leader, and the mercenaries were faintly at a disadvantage. He dodged too slowly and was slashed in the shoulder by the other party. Seeing that the saber was stuck in the flesh of their leader's shoulder, his heart sank, and he immediately stepped forward with his saber. Hiss! The leader of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group took a deep breath and cried out in pain. He swung the weapon in his hand toward the other party, but the moment he swung the sword in his hand, the leader of the Death Mercenary Group pulled back his hand. The sword that had cut into his flesh was suddenly pulled out, and a stream of blood splattered out. Under the impact of the force, the leader of the Death Mercenary Group staggered and fell back. However, the leader of the Death Mercenaries didn't stop attacking because of this. He brandished his saber and attacked the leader of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenaries. At this moment, a Death Mercenary on the side attacked the leader of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenaries waist with his sword in his hand. At this moment, it was already impossible for him to dodge. He couldn't help but clench his teeth, thinking that even if he was hit from the side, he had to block the fatal blow in front of him. Unexpectedly, he'd overestimated his combat strength, and the injury he'd suffered from the Death Mercenaries commander's strike was too severe, causing him to be unable to exert any strength. Just when he thought he was dead for sure, a figure pounced over like a ferocious tiger. He instantly pulled the leader of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenaries behind him, and then he brandished his saber, and a fierce saber aura attacked. The leader of the Death Mercenaries in front of him quickly retreated to avoid the attack and save his life. However, the Death Mercenary on the side couldn't dodge in time and was chopped in half at the waist by the saber aura. His intestines flowed out, and the bloody scene was nauseating. He was dumbfounded. Looking at the new mercenary who stood in front of him and protected him, his mind was in a mess for a moment, and he only felt that it was inconceivable. This new mercenary who joined them not long ago and only went on 2 missions with them actually had such amazing fighting strength. He stood behind him and watched as he blocked all directions with the might of one man holding the pass against 10,000 men. Looking at him, the new mercenary in front of him, and the smell of the ferocious tiger mercenaries, and ferocious tiger mercenaries, ferocious tiger mercenaries, and ferocious. The ferocious. Leader, you rest on the side. Leave this person to me, Guan Shilin said in a calm voice, and shouted to the other members of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group. 2 of you, come and protect the leader. Apply medicine and bandage his wounds. Okay. 2 of the members of the Ferocious Tiger Mercenary Group, who came back to their senses, quickly responded, and quickly walked to their leader's side. One of them protected him, while the other took out medicine and quickly applied medicine to stop the bleeding. Chapter 2058. I know. Guan Shilin nodded as he spoke. He waved the large saber in his hand and pointed it at the ground. His piercingly cold gaze was fixed on the leader of the Death Mercenaries in front of him. At this moment, the leader of the Death Mercenaries was sizing him up. Seeing his piercingly cold aura and his dark force aura, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Just a mystic? You actually have such ability? Compared to spirit cultivators, mystic was only slightly stronger. Their combat strength was far inferior to spirit cultivators. However, this person's skills and combat strength made him somewhat apprehensive. So what if you're mystic? It's already amazing if I can kill you. Guan Shilin shouted in a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, his dark force aura burst forth. He took a step forward and waved the large saber in his hand, attacking the other party at a fast and ruthless speed. Clang! The leader of the Death Mercenaries quickly used the large saber in his hand to block the other party's attack. However, when the two sabers collided, he was forcefully pushed back by the other party's strength. He retreated step by step, completely unable to stop. The aura of the saber shot out from the two people's sabers. The strong airflow caused small cuts on the mercenaries on the two people's bodies. The leader of the Death Mercenaries injected a surge of spiritual force aura and forcefully pushed the other party away. At the same time, he retreated a few meters back. Sir, with such ability, you're actually willing to be a mercenary in this small mercenary group? As long as you agree to join us, I'll give you the position of vice leader. How about it? He didn't give up and said again. He really felt that this person's skills were very good. If he could recruit him to his mercenary group, it would definitely be a great thing for his mercenary group. Not interested. Guan Shilin's low and sharp voice rang out. He waved the large saber in his hand and attacked again. Every move he made was a killing move. The two of them exchanged blows. Not long after, the leader of the Death Mercenaries was slashed by his saber. The wound on his arm was so deep that his bones could be seen. Fresh blood gushed out and quickly dyed his mercenary uniform red. Damn it! He cursed under his breath and stared at Guan Shilin gloomily. However, he saw Guan Shilin take a step forward and attack him again. Guan Shilin swung his broadsword with great force. Guan Shilin tried to block it with the broadsword in his hand, but it was suppressed by Guan Shilin's broadsword. Guan Shilin's strength was so great that his hand was numb. Clang! The hand that was holding the broadsword trembled, and the broadsword in his hand fell to the ground. Looking at the incoming attack, he was shocked. As he quickly retreated, he grabbed a member of the Death Mercenary group and used him as a shield. The sound of the blade piercing into the body was heard. The mercenary's eyes widened in shock. He stared at his leader in shock and anger. He had never thought that he would be used as a shield. Oof! How cold-blooded and heartless. Guan Shilin snorted coldly. He took another step forward and swung his saber again. This time, I'll take your head. The murderous voice rang out, and the sharp and intimidating murderous intent caused the leader of the Death Mercenary group to be shocked. He had never thought that this person's strength would be so strong. The strength of his opponent's attack was so strong that he couldn't compete with it. Moreover, his skillful killing moves made him fearful. Chapter 2059. Whoosh! The sharp energy of the saber slashed down, and a shrill scream rang out. It echoed in the forest, causing people to tremble in fear and their hands and feet to turn ice cold. The aura of death permeated the air, especially when the members of the Death Mercenary group saw their leader being chopped in half by the mercenary wielding a broadsword. That scene was too bloody and too shocking, to the extent that many of them were unable to react. They stood there blankly for a long time, unable to return to their senses. Kill! The leader of the ferocious tiger mercenary group, who was shocked by the scene in front of him, suddenly came back to his senses. He looked at the stunned members of the Death Mercenary group and immediately ordered his mercenaries to kill. Kill! 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 Under the leader's order, even though the members of the ferocious tiger mercenary group were injured, they quickly swung their blades at the Death Mercenary group after coming back to their senses. They wanted to catch them off guard and kill them without leaving a single piece of armor behind. Roars filled with excitement and battle intent came from their mouths. Everyone's spirit force and aura gathered together. At this moment, battle intent surged out like an erupting volcano. Everyone's combat strength seemed to be stimulated, and they all ignored their injuries and did their best to kill the enemy. When the leader of the death mercenary group died, it was like their backbone had collapsed. Everyone panicked and wanted to escape, but the more they panicked, the more chaotic it became. In the end, there were countless casualties, and only a few people managed to escape. On the other side, Feng Jiao, Hun Yuanzi, and Zhuo Junwei didn't leave for long before they heard the sounds of fighting behind them. She didn't feel anything, but Hun Yuanzi stopped and looked back. This sound could be those mercenaries. He stroked his beard and murmured while looking at Feng Jiao. "Don't look at me. Do what you want to do. I didn't stop you," Feng Jiao said as she sat on Tun Yun's back and drank wine. She wasn't a good person and wouldn't rush forward for everything. Even if she helped, it would depend on her luck and her mood. Hearing this, the old man chuckled. "In that case, shall we rest here? Let Junwei go back and take a look?" Feng Jiao did not answer. Instead, he changed his position and laid face up on Tun Yun's soft and comfortable fur. Meanwhile, Tun Yun lay down so that she could rest comfortably for a while. Seeing this, the old man gestured to Zhuo Junwei. "Hurry up and check on the mercenaries. If there's anything you need help with, just lend me a hand." Zhuo Junwei responded, then took a deep breath and flew back. Seeing that he had left, the old man patted his mount, making it lower its head before jumping down. He walked in front of Feng Jiao and asked with a smile, "Little girl, tell me honestly, why do you want to know about Blockhead's family?" Feng Jiao glanced at him and did not hide anything. Instead, he directly said, "I am helping my master find his descendant. I saw that his expression when he saw the Qing Feng sword was strange, so I guess his identity. Since you said that you know everything about his family, then do you know if he has any relatives with the surname Chu?" Chapter 2060. "What do you mean?" Feng Jiao looked at him and asked. "It's their family. They're from the Zhou family. Although his father is the eldest son of the Zhou family, his status in the family is not as good as that of a side branch. He is always suppressed by his second uncle. As for his grandmother, although she's still alive, she's been living in seclusion due to her poor health. She doesn't care about the family matters either. This kid's family is practically invisible in the Zhou family. Otherwise, this kid wouldn't be by my side." Hearing this, Feng Jiao was slightly surprised. There's such a thing? Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that his father? There were some things she wanted to ask, but she didn't feel like it was appropriate. "You want to ask if his father is of the Zhou family's bloodline?" The old man stroked his beard and smiled. "Actually, this old man doesn't really care about matters related to their family's bloodline, so I really don't know much about this matter. If you want to know, you can ask around yourself." Hearing this, Feng Jiao thought to herself, "It seems like this matter really needs to be investigated by the Phoenix Guards. Maybe there really is a connection. But this old man will tell you. Do you know why I call him Blockhead? Actually, the old man's interest was piqued, and he stood there and told Feng Jiao about Zhuo Junwei. On the other side, the members of the ferocious tiger mercenary group stood there in a daze. They stared blankly at the corpses on the ground for a long time before turning their gazes to Guan Shilin, who was standing with a large sword in his hand. They only knew that Guan Shilin was a new member, and only a temporary one at that. He had only gone on 2 missions with them. Usually, he didn't look any different from the other mercenaries, except that he didn't talk much. Who would have thought that such an inconspicuous mercenary would play such a huge role in this battle, and even bring about such an unbelievable shock to them? In contrast to their stunned expressions, Guan Shilin turned around and strode to the side of the pale-faced leader. "Leader, how are you?" "I'm fine." Although his face was pale, he was excited and in good spirits. He looked at Guan Shilin, who was half squatting in front of him, and smiled gratefully. "Little Guan, thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to keep my life." "Leader, what are you talking about? This is what I should do," Guan Shilin said as he looked at the others. "Brothers, you're all injured. Let's find a place to bandage your wounds first. Yes, we can't stay here any longer. Clean up the scene, and we'll leave as soon as possible. We'll find a place to bandage our wounds first." The leader of the ferocious tiger mercenary group panted as he spoke, his voice weak. Go! Everyone quickly cleaned up the scene. Those who were lightly injured helped those who were heavily injured, and the group quickly left. In the dark, Junue, who had witnessed the scene, retracted his gaze and left quietly. The two people who were talking heard the commotion and knew that he had returned. They looked back at the same time. Seeing that he had returned so quickly, the old man asked, How was it? Who did those mercenaries meet? Are they still alive? They met the death mercenary group. Junue said. Then, he paused and heard the old man's shocked voice. Death mercenary group? It's over, it's over. Doesn't that mean they're all dead? With their strength, how could they be a match for those people? Chapter 2061. Oh, there are mercenaries even stronger than the leader? The old man asked with interest. Yes, one of the mercenaries is a mystic. His cultivation is very high. He killed the leader of the opposing mercenary group with a single slash, Junue said. As Junue spoke, he recalled that when he had rushed over, he had not seen the saber slash down. However, judging from the scene, that was indeed the case. The old man stroked his beard and glanced at Fengjiu. As expected, there are strong people everywhere, and strong people like to hide. Fengjiu pretended not to see the old man's gaze. She patted Tunyun's head. Tunyun stood up and strode forward. The old man also got on his contracted beast, and the three of them leisurely walked into the forest. 2 days later, as they got closer and closer to the crater, not only did the surrounding trees become fewer and fewer, but the temperature on the ground and in the air also became higher and higher. Due to the increasing temperature, Tunyun was panting from exhaustion. Fengjiu put it into her space and walked by herself. The old man put his contracted beast away as well. The three of them walked slowly together. Is this place always so hot? Fengjiu asked. Even though she was stepping on the ground, she could still feel the scorching heat. Under the hot air, she was sweating nonstop. She drank a lot of water along the way. We're close to the crater. There are still some trees here. If we go further, there won't be any trees, let alone weeds on the ground. Even ferocious beasts won't come here, the old man said as he wiped his sleeve. The old man raised his sleeve to wipe his sweat as he said, But in these places, you should pay more attention to the black stones under your feet. Those glowing black stones are the fire spark stones. They belong to the fire attribute and are extremely useful for the cultivation of fire attribute people. Fengjiu looked at the ground under her feet. The ground was very dry and there wasn't a single blade of grass in this area. As for the glowing black stones the old man mentioned, she didn't see them. The volcano erupts once every 3 months, especially those rock ores. You guys have to be careful. Don't get splashed by the rock ores. There's no cure for it. The fire poison is very strong. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life. The old man reminded the two of them as they walked. However, there's another treasure here other than the fire spark stones. Upon hearing this, Fengjiu looked at him and asked curiously, What treasure? Halfway up the volcano, there's a kind of spiritual herb called the illuminating flame grass. It's said that this herb has a wide range of uses and is very precious. It's a spiritual herb that only grows once every 100 years. It's very spiritual and will automatically absorb the illuminating flame stones in the volcano as nutrients. When the volcano erupts, it will slip away and move to another place. After the volcano erupts, it will appear again halfway up the volcano. After so many years, it seems that only a few have seen the world. Fengjiu was surprised. It can move on its own? Then it can transform into a medicine spirit? The old man looked at her and said, This volcano erupts once every 3 months. How can it have time to transform into a medicine spirit? It's said that this kind of medicine is born like this. It can only be found in this place. You can't find it anywhere else. Chapter 2062. That's right. This old man is here for it. He smiled as he stroked his beard. This dazzling fire herb has another name. It's called the celestial herb. I heard that it has the miraculous effect of prolonging one's life, curing all kinds of internal injuries, and greatly increasing the cultivation of fire tribute cultivators. Naturally, this old man wants to find one just in case. Feng Jiu looked at him speechlessly. Why was this old man's thinking so different from others? Why would he come here to find the celestial herb just in case? Did he think that he didn't have long to live? Or did he think that he would suffer some kind of fatal internal injury? Suddenly, she sucked in a breath. She felt something under her foot. She moved her foot away and saw a sharp black stone protruding from the ground. The black stone shone brightly under the sunlight. She squatted down in surprise and dug out the sharp black stone. The old man and Zhuo Junhua walked over. When they saw the black stone that she had dug out, surprise flashed across their eyes. They didn't expect that she would step on a dazzling fire rock while walking. Her luck was truly heaven-defying. This is the dazzling fire rock, right? It's not that shiny. She held the black stone that she had just dug out from the ground. This fire spark stone was only the size of an egg, but it had a very sharp tip. This small stone was buried underground, and it was this tip that was sticking out of the ground that caused her to feel pain when she stepped on it. This is the dazzling fire rock. Some are bigger than the one in your hand, while others are smaller. The old man smiled at her. With your heaven-defying luck, this old man thinks that if I bring you along to find the dazzling fire herb, we'll definitely find one. Feng Jiu played with the dazzling fire rock in his hand. He looked at the old man with a sly smile. If I find it, I won't give it to you. If you find it, then it's naturally yours. This old man can exchange it with you. Han Yuanzi glanced at Feng Jiu. Don't worry, I won't take advantage of you. There's a fire spark stone here too. Zhuo Junyue's voice suddenly caught their attention. Where? Where? The old man hurried forward and saw Zhuo Junyue bending down to dig up a fist-sized fire spark stone. The old man couldn't help but feel a little envious when he saw this. His words were filled with jealousy. You two are bullying this old man. Are my old eyes not good? How come the old man didn't find it when he was walking around? Hearing this, Zhuo Junyue glanced at him and threw the fist-sized fire spark stone into his arms. Here, the old man stared blankly at the fist-sized fire spark stone in his arms. You don't want it? This is good stuff. There should be more in this area. We can continue searching. As Zhuo Junyue spoke, he slowed down his pace. As he walked around, he looked for any abnormalities on the ground. That's true. The old man nodded. He put away the fire spark stone and continued to search at the side. Feng Jiu lowered his head to look at the fire spark stone in his hand. He also searched in this area. As Zhuo Junyue said, there should be more than 2 fire spark stones in this area. Chapter 2063. Because they searched carefully in this area, they really did find a lot of fire spark stones. Feng Jiu and the old man were very happy. The two of them even competed to see who could find more later. Although it was hot here, they were still laughing because of their mood. Their laughter naturally attracted the attention of some people in the area. There were 3 groups of people who noticed Feng Jiu and the others. One of them might have recognized Han Yuan, but after seeing the person who was squatting on the ground digging for fire spark stones, they waved their hands and quietly left. As for the other 2 groups, they saw the 3 of them digging up the fire spark stones. Moreover, there were only 3 of them. They naturally did not want to miss such a great opportunity. Therefore, they had the idea of robbing them. Whether it was Feng Jiu, Han Yuanzi, or Zhuo Junyue, they already knew that there were people watching them. They just ignored them. After picking up all the fire spark stones they could find, they roughly calculated that there were only about 20 of them. The big ones were the size of fists, and the small ones were the size of rocks. All right, where are we going? Although it's a little small, there should be more ahead. The old man said with a smile. There was a sense of excitement in his eyes, as if he was digging for treasure. Feng Jiu played with the fire spark stone in her hand. She looked at Han Yuanzi and Zhuo Junyue and said, We've been robbed along the way. Do you think we'll be targeted again? In fact, she wanted to rob them instead. These people who specialized in robbing here must have a lot of good stuff on them. Thinking of this, she did not want to take a step forward. The weather is hot. Why don't we find a place to rest before we continue? Hun Yuanzi and Zhuo Junhua looked at her, but did not say anything. The old man thought for a moment and pointed in a direction. It's so hot here. There's not even a place to sit. Why don't we go over there and take a look? Feng Jiu looked in the direction he was pointing and happened to see the person who was hiding. She couldn't help but smile. Who are you, sir? Why are you hiding? As soon as she said that, the two groups of people stood up. However, they ignored Feng Jiu's group and started fighting. We were the ones who set our sights on this prey first. The leader of one of the groups shouted. We're in charge of this place. Since we're here, the things are naturally ours. What? You want to fight? Don't forget that we've fought before. All right, in that case, let's get those things first and then divide them equally. The two groups of people were discussing here. When they looked up, they could faintly hear the voices of the three people. What the hell are you trying to do? These people are here to rob you. Don't tell me you're going to give them everything. How is that? I was just thinking that since these people came to us on their own accord, we might as well rob them. It's better than letting them rob us. Feng Jiu said matter-of-factly. Are you confident? The other party has quite a number of people. Although they were not afraid of these people, if they attacked, it would be, what's so difficult about that? Her eyes flashed with a sly smile. The temperature here is rising. The effect of the medicine is taking effect faster. Look, they're all down. Chapter 2064. Feng Jiu smiled and clapped her hands. She walked forward leisurely. Have you forgotten what I do for a living? Why do I have to make a move for such a small matter? The old man's mouth twitched. He muttered softly, How could I forget? You're a robber. Zhuo Junyue's lips curled into a smile. He glanced at Feng Jiu and followed her. The people who fell to the ground fainted one by one. Feng Jiu didn't kill them. She just looted everything from their bodies. In the end, she looked through her loot. TSK. These people have everything in their collection. Looks like they've robbed a lot of people. How can they do so well here with such little ability? She shook her head and muttered softly. Then, she put everything away. When the old man saw her putting everything away, he glared at her and asked, Don't you have to give some to us? Are you going to take everything for yourself? Ah, you want it? I thought you're Mount Tai of the immortal sect and wouldn't want these things. If this gets out, won't your reputation be ruined? Hearing this, the old man said angrily, I don't care. You don't care. Who was the one who tried to stop me? You didn't even move a finger. But she turned and smiled at Zhuo Junhua. She reached out and patted his shoulder. You should get some. You're biased. The old man felt wronged. He couldn't understand why she didn't like him when he was such a popular person. I'm not biased. Junyue has been helping me take all these people's treasures. Feng Jiu smiled and said to Zhuo Junyue, who was still holding a lot of things, Keep those cosmos bags and interspatial rings for your future wife. Zhuo Junyue's mouth twitched. He handed the things in his hand over. No need. Keep them. Keep them. You'll have meat to eat if you follow me. She proudly patted him on the shoulder as she spoke. Her actions were completely devoid of the gentleness of a woman. Instead, they were filled with the carefree spirit of a man. The old man was jealous. He tugged at his beard in pain and said to Zhuo Junyue, You don't believe me when I say you're a blockhead? You don't even know how to accept something that's delivered to your doorstep. Haven't you heard of this before? Why don't you take it? Zhuo Junhua glanced at the old man speechlessly. Then, he kept the item and said to Feng Jiu, Thank you. No need to thank me. Let's go. There's still treasures inside. She said with a smile. When she passed by a fainted person, she lifted her foot and stepped on the person's hand. The hand that was quietly holding onto the knife loosened due to the pain. The faint sound of bones breaking could be heard, but the person endured it and did not make a single sound. When the old man and Zhuo Junhua saw this, they didn't say anything. The three of them walked forward as if they were taking a stroll in their own backyard. Perhaps it was because of the spoils of war, but the smiles on their faces increased even in the scorching heat. Not long after the three of them left, the person who had been stepped on earlier sat up with a horrified expression. Among these people, he and the other person were the strongest. Although the medicine made them unconscious, they quickly woke up. Chapter 2065. Gee, I thought you had some ability. You actually want to hurt people with a knife? A middle-aged man on the other side sneered and slowly sat up from the ground. He patted the dust off his body and glanced at the man with a broken wrist. How good are you? You're still pretending even when you're awake. Useless. The man with a broken wrist snorted coldly with a gloomy face and stood up from the ground. How can that be the same? I saw how powerful those 3 people were and didn't dare to make a move. Otherwise, not only would we lose our belongings, we would also lose our lives here. Although that person was unwilling, a wise man submits to circumstances. He was very clear that if they really held their sabers and fought like him, they would probably lose their lives in the end. Those people obviously only took the treasures and didn't hurt anyone. They were already merciful. If they took the treasures, they wouldn't leave their lives behind. But speaking of which, who are those people? The 2 of them looked at their unconscious subordinates on the ground and asked doubtfully, "Hee, you dare to make a move without knowing who they are?" A voice came from behind them. They saw that the group of people who had left earlier had returned. However, they had a gloating expression on their faces. You know, these teams often looted in this area, so they were more or less familiar with it. If I didn't know, I would probably end up like you. That person's gaze swept across them and mockingly looked at their empty bodies. You don't have anything left, right? It's good enough that you can keep your lives. Who are those 3 people? The middle-aged man with a broken wrist asked. He was very unwilling. Those treasures were all they had, but they were all taken away just like that. I don't know about the other 2, but that old man is Han Yuan from the Nebula Immortal Sect. You even dare to touch him. I can't help but admire your guts. As that person spoke, he shook his head and was too lazy to deal with them. When the 2 of them heard this, their faces paled and they felt a lingering fear. It was actually Han Yuan from the Nebula Immortal Sect? That sect's Mount Tai? Oh my god, they were really unlucky to have met such an old thing. However, what infuriated them even more was that the one who had defeated them wasn't Han Yuan Z, but a young man in green with unknown origins. There's a cave up ahead. Shall we rest there tonight? The old man pointed at a cave up ahead. All right, you guys go ahead first. I'll take a look around to see if there's any game. Walking in this place without any meat to eat was suffering. You want to eat meat in a place like this? There's no need to think about it. There's no wild game in this place. The old man waved his hand and walked towards the cave. Zhuo Junhua looked at Feng Jiu and said, I'll go with you. Wild game is rare, but if you're lucky, you might encounter some. Feng Jiu rolled his eyes and said with a smile, I know. Since there are very few wild animals here, we should be able to get some from other people's caves. Those teams that stop to rob in this area would definitely have some game. Wouldn't it be better to just go to them and get some? Hearing this, Zhuo Junhua was stunned for a moment before revealing a faint smile. All right, let's go take a look then. Chapter 2066. In a cave some distance away, there was a group of people sitting in a circle, drinking, eating, and chatting. When they got excited, laughter could be heard. Boss is still the best. He went up to take a look and knew that it was Han Yuan from the Nebula Immortal Sect. Fortunately, we didn't go up to join the fun. Otherwise, we might have ended up like those 2 groups of idiots. That's right. When we went over to take a look earlier, the 2 groups of people were all unconscious on the ground. Their belongings were all taken away. The 2 leaders woke up first, but one of them wanted to use a knife to attack those people, but he didn't expect that even his wrist bone would be broken. Speaking of which, it's already good that those 3 people didn't take their lives. If it were anyone else, their belongings would have been taken and they wouldn't have been able to keep their lives. That Han Yuan is from the Nebula Immortal Sect, after all. He wouldn't be so ruthless. He would definitely hesitate to end so many people's lives. Now, those 2 teams have already left with their tails between their legs. Boss is also kind and didn't kill them all. That's right, Boss is kind. As the crowd spoke, they kept flattering their boss. Some of them even poured wine for them. When the leader of these people heard the crowd's words, he was also in a good mood. He laughed and raised his wine bowl. Come on, let's drink, let's drink. Outside, Feng Jiu smelled the fragrance of wine and meat and smiled like a cunning fox. She gestured to Zhuo Junhua. How is it? I didn't say anything wrong, right? These people must have meat. Smell it. There's also the fragrance of wine. Let's get some back for the old man. Okay. Zhuo Junyu nodded and looked at the 2 sentries in front. He said to Fengjiu, 1 each. Okay. The 2 of them rushed forward. Before the sentries noticed, they were already behind them. With a chop, the items on the 2 sentries fell into their hands. At the same time, the 2 who were knocked unconscious fell to the ground. The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Smelling the aroma of the meat and wine, they walked inside. Just then, they heard a voice from inside. Flip the roast meat, don't burn it. Hearing this, Fengjiu swallowed his saliva. Sigh. She was indeed a layman. She did not like to eat fasting pills. She only liked to eat grains and meat. She walked briskly to the cave and smiled as she poked her head into the cave. However, the people inside were so frightened that they were in a state of panic. Ah, it's that green-robed youth. Why are these 2 people back? The people who were sitting around the barbecue fire at the entrance of the cave were startled by the sudden intrusion of the 2 people. One by one, they jumped up high into the air and quickly retreated into the cave, crowding it densely. Hee, you don't have to be afraid. We don't have any ill intentions. Fengjiu smiled and sniffed the roast meat. This roast meat smells really good. Seeing this scene and hearing the green-robed youth's words, the middle-aged man in the lead calmed down and said, If you like it, I'll give this roast meat to you. He only hoped that they would leave quickly after taking the roast meat. Chapter 2067. When a middle-aged man in the lead saw the green-robed young man's eyes darting towards the jug of wine, the corners of his mouth twitched involuntarily. He forced a smile and said, It's all right. It's fate that brought us together. I'll give you this roasted wild boar, and that jug of wine over there as well. They could hunt again if the wild boar was gone. If the wine was gone, they could buy it again. If they lost their treasures and lives, it would be a huge loss. It's hard to refuse such kindness. Since you've said so, we'll accept it, she said with a smile and glanced at Zhuo Junyu. Zhuo Junyu took a few steps forward and put the jug of wine into his space. Then, he returned to the area where the wild boar was roasted. He and Fengjiu each carried a wild boar and walked out. The rest of the men followed behind them and gulped as they looked at the wild boar they were carrying. Their faces were full of greed. At this moment, the young man in green who was walking in front suddenly turned around, scaring the men into stopping in their tracks. There's no need to send us off. You can stay here. Fengjiu waved at them happily. Then, he and Zhuo Junyu carried the roasted wild boar towards the old man. The men behind them stood there and stared blankly. After a long while, they regained their senses. One of them muttered, This young man in green is more like a bandit than we are. He's a bandit among bandits. Boss, the wild boar we hunted with great difficulty is gone just like that. We even lost such a big jug of wine. Another man said faintly as he looked in the direction the 2 men had left. Although they were far away, they could still smell the aroma of the roasted meat from here. Useless. The middle-aged man in the lead glared at them. Those are just worldly possessions. If they're gone, so be it. Our lives and our treasures are safe. If they want the roasted meat and wine, we'll just give them to them. Boss, the 2 men who were on guard duty were only knocked unconscious. They're not dead. The other 2 men quickly walked back and supported the 2 unconscious men. It's good that they're not dead. Get them into the cave. He waved his hand and said, Boss, should we go back and hunt some wild animals? Our brothers haven't eaten meat for half a month. One of them mustered up the courage to ask, Go back. Do you think it's a short way to go hunting? If it was close, those 2 bastards wouldn't have come here to ask for things. The middle-aged man said angrily, Don't we still have fasting pills? Just eat some fasting pills. Seeing that he was angry, none of them dared to say a word. On the other side, the old man who was resting in the cave was humming a tune as he muttered, Little girl, you didn't listen to this old man. This old man already said that there are no wild animals in this area, but you still don't believe me. I don't believe that you can go out and bring back wild animals. However, as he was muttering to himself, His nose suddenly sniffed, and he couldn't help but follow the smell outside. When he saw the two people carrying a roasted wild boar back, he couldn't help but widen his eyes in astonishment. Hiss! This little girl really brought back game? He ran forward excitedly and couldn't help but ask, "Where did you get this? It's actually roasted? Don't tell me you stole it?" Chapter 2068. How is that possible? Fengjiu raised her voice slightly and looked at him with a smile. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would rob someone? This roast pig was given to us by someone, and they even gave us a jar of wine. Hearing this, the old man glanced at her strangely, his face full of disbelief. Someone gave it to us? How come he didn't know that the people here were so friendly? Of course, it was given to us, Fengjiu said as she carried the roast pig inside and set it up. Then she took out a small knife and cut a small piece for the old man. Come, try it. All right, there's wine too. She glanced at Zhuo Junwei. Zhuo Junyue's eyes were smiling as he took out the jar of wine and placed it to the side. He heard the old man exclaim softly, "You actually managed to get some wine? You're good. How did you do it? I've been out here for so many years. How come I've never encountered such a good thing?" He took out his empty wine gourd and drank some, smacking his lips. Although it can't compare to my original wine, it's still a good spirit wine. Fengjiu cut a piece of meat for Zhuo Junyue and said, "Such a big wild boar is enough for us to eat for a few days. Later, put away the rest. When you want to eat more, you could take it out and roast it." "You're giving this jar of spirit wine to the old man?" Han Yuanzi asked cheerfully as he poured the wine into his wine gourd. His wine gourd was a magic artifact. Not to mention one jug of wine, it could even hold 10 jugs. He hadn't bought wine for a long time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have run out of wine here. "Fine, I'll give it to you. It's no big deal," Fengjiu said indifferently as she cut a large piece of meat and ate it. The three of them ate meat and drank wine. After a night's rest, they set off again the next day. The journey was relatively peaceful, except that the temperature was getting hotter and hotter. Whether it was day or night, it was the same. The deeper they went, the more steam rose from the ground. "We're almost there, almost there. Do you see that? It's that mountain." The old man wiped his sweat and pointed at a large volcano not far away. "The Fires Park grass should be halfway up the mountain. Let's go there and look for it. There might be obsidian there. We don't have to wait for the next eruption." Fengjiu looked up and saw the faint steam rising from the volcano. He couldn't help but ask, "Won't it too dangerous for us to go up there? Although the magma is at the bottom of the earth, if it's halfway up the mountain." "Don't worry. It's fine. Look, there are people halfway up the mountain." The old man pointed at the people who were climbing halfway up the mountain. Seeing this, Fengjiu nodded. "All right, then go and take a look. If there's anything wrong, you must leave immediately." I know. Old man, do I need you to remind me?" Only then did the three of them walk towards the volcano. When they reached the bottom, other than some small pieces of Fires Park stone, they didn't see any large pieces. However, as they got closer, the dozen or so teams guarding the foot of the mountain stared at them, as if they were trying to guess their origins. "Do we all go up? Or do we leave one person down here?" Han Yuanzi looked at Fengjiu and asked, "If there was one person left down here, it would undoubtedly be Zhuo Junwei. He had to go up, and Fengjiu didn't need to be mentioned." Chapter 2069. If one of them stayed behind, he would be seen as a thorn in everyone's side. It would be better to go up together so that they could take care of each other. "All right, let's go then." The old man nodded and glanced at Zhuo Junwei. The three of them went up the mountain. Although they could fly on their swords in this place, they wouldn't be able to find what they were looking for. Therefore, everyone who came here to look for the Fires Park stone and immortal grass had to walk. This way, they wouldn't let go of the chance to find the treasure. Who are those people? I don't know who they are. However, that old man's strength is unfathomable. The other two are nothing to be afraid of. Other teams are made up of dozens of people. They actually dare to come here with just 3 people. Their guts are not small. Since they are here to die, why don't I send them on their way?" A fat man said. He stared at the 3 figures with a murderous look in his eyes. Then he took out a bow from his chinkoan bag. When the people around saw this, their eyes flashed. Someone asked, "Are you trying to kill them? If you can't shoot 3 arrows at the same time, they won't let you go easily." "What's so difficult about shooting 3 arrows at the same time? My archery skills are exquisite. I have no problem shooting 5 arrows at the same time," the fat man said as he knocked his bow and aimed at the 3 people who were going up the mountain. In the crowd below, there were some people with gloating smiles on their faces as they stared at the fat man. More than half of the people present recognized that the old man was Hun Yuan from the Nebula Immortal Sect. Otherwise, why would he let the 3 of them come so close? The primordial chaos of the Nebula Immortal Sect was Mount Tai of the sect. His fighting strength alone was probably comparable to their entire team, and only that person who overestimated himself would dare to take out a bow and arrow to kill them. He was sure that if this arrow was shot, then that group of people would not be far from death. Many people knew about it, but didn't say anything. They just watched as if they were watching a good show. Some even felt that it wasn't lively enough and started to jeer. "Shoot accurately. Don't let everyone see you as a joke." Zhuo Junhua looked back and said to the 2 of them, "Someone wants to use us as a target. Ignore them. Let's go. If they can hit us, that's their ability." The old man snorted as he paid attention to the ground below his feet. There were no stairs on the path up the mountain. Every step had to be taken with extreme caution. Otherwise, one would roll down the mountain. Rolling down was a small matter, but the problem was that if one rolled down, their skin would rub against the ground of the volcano. It would be difficult to protect their lives. Be careful. The most important thing is to not fall. Alluring Ghost Doctor. Chapter 2070. However, the man who fell was howling in pain. He couldn't even stand up and had to be helped to the back to lie down. "See, even falling down here is a problem." The old man glanced at the 2 and continued to climb up the mountain. The volcano was very steep, and there were very few places to stand firmly. Therefore, everyone who climbed up was very careful. However, at this moment, 3 sharp arrows were shot out with a whoosh and shot towards Fengjiu and the other 2 with a fierce momentum. Hearing the sound behind him, Fengjiu smiled. "Let's see who's faster. Let's hit them in one shot." "No problem," Hun Yuanzi replied. Just as the 3 arrows were about to hit them, the 3 people suddenly turned around and grabbed the 3 arrows. In almost an instant, the 3 arrows flew out of their hands and attacked the fat man with the bow at the foot of the mountain. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 sharp arrows shot down from above at a speed so fast that it was impossible to cover one's ears. They shot towards a fat man with a sharp and cold aura. This scene happened so quickly that no one could react in time. It was only when a shrill scream came out of the man's mouth that everyone regained their senses. However, when they saw this scene, they were all stunned. The shrill scream reverberated in the air. At this moment, whether it was the people at the foot of the mountain or those who had climbed halfway up the mountain, all of them looked in the direction of the scream. The fat man with the bow and arrow stood stiffly. His eyes were wide open in fear, and his face was drained of blood. His expression was one of extreme fear, and between his eyebrows, there was an arrow feather deeply embedded there. A trace of blood seeped out from the gap between the arrow feather and his flesh dripping down. Further down, there was also an arrow stuck in his throat. However, this arrow had directly pierced through. It was also a fatal blow. Further down, there was also an arrow protruding from his chest. This arrow had also pierced through his body, leaving only a small section of the arrow trembling slightly. Only at this moment did the rigid body slowly fall backwards. Bang! With a loud bang, the fat man fell to the ground. Due to the weight of his body, the ground shook when he fell. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. They couldn't help but take a few steps back to distance themselves from the fat man. 3 arrows were shot simultaneously. All 3 arrows were caught and reflected. All 3 arrows hit the fat man's fatal points. For a moment, everyone's breathing became heavier. Those who didn't recognize Hun Yuanzi were even more shocked. They had a new understanding of the three people and knew that they were not to be trifled with. Those who knew that the old man was Hunyuanzi were even more shocked. Hunyuanzi aside, even those two people were so powerful. They really didn't expect it. At this moment, they rejoiced that they didn't rush forward to deal with them. Otherwise, their fate would be similar to the fat man's. Chapter 2071. When the people halfway up the mountain saw this scene, they also glanced at the three people below. Some of them recognized Hunyuanzi, while others did not. Unlike the other people who were probing and vigilant, Fengjiu and the other two were arguing about whose arrow was faster. "I'm the slowest," Zhuojunue said as he continued climbing. Among the three of them, his arrow was the slowest, but still hit the heart and killed him in one shot. "It's normal that you are the weakest and slowest." As Primordial Chaos spoke, his eyes narrowed into slits as he smiled. "I'm the fastest," and I stabbed his throat. Fengjiu glanced at him. "I'm clearly faster than you." "No, I'm clearly faster." He refused to admit that he was slower than her. All right, let's go." Fengjiu did not really argue with him and continued climbing. He said to the other two, "Be careful, and don't just look for things below." In such a place, the people at the foot of the mountain might be stunned, but the people above were also staring at them. If one of them was up to no good, who knew what they would do? "Hey, look, there's a Fires Park stone over there." As expected, there are more in this area. We don't even have to wait for the volcano to erupt. I think no one came to look for it after the last eruption. As the old man spoke, he moved to the other side and dug out the buried Fires Park stone. Haha, I didn't expect that just a little bit would be so big. This is definitely the biggest piece I've dug up so far, Hunyuanzi said excitedly as he handed the Fires Park stone to Fengjiu and Zhuojunue. Fengjiu glanced at it and said, "It's useless for you to have so many of these things. At most, you can sell them for money, but you shouldn't be short of money." "Hee, that's true. What does this old man not have?" He subconsciously raised his chin with a smug look on his face. Because he was in a good mood, he casually handed over the palm-sized Fires Park stone in his hand. "Here, this is for you." This old man saw that you didn't find a big one. Hearing this, Fengjiu was a little surprised and looked at him strangely. "For me? Well, here you go," the old man said with a smile. "If you give it to me now, you won't ask for it back later, will you?" She stared at him suspiciously. How is that possible? Is the old man such a petty person? He snorted and tossed the Fires Park stone to her. Take it. You can always find something like this again. As for the celestial grass, if you find it, remember to give this old man one. If you really can't find it, this old man can use the Fires Park stone I found to exchange with you." Hearing this, Fengjiu pursed her lips and smiled. She took the Fires Park stone and put it away. "Then I'll have to thank you." Saying this, she continued to climb. When the people above saw that they had found a palm-sized Fires Park stone, they couldn't help but be surprised. Although they hadn't searched all the places below, how could they not find such a big Fires Park stone? The people below really had it easy. One of the teams looked at each other. They were originally dissatisfied with the three people who had used arrows to kill their team member. Now that they saw this scene, they immediately had other thoughts. Chapter 2072. Seeing the falling rocks, the three people at the bottom quickly dodged. With a misstep, Junjiu slid down a few meters before coming to a stop. At this moment, the people who purposely stepped on the rocks did not stop. Instead, they became even more arrogant. These people are really evil. The old man frowned and looked down. "Blockhead, how are you? Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Zhuojunue replied and continued to climb. Fengjiu looked up and her eyes turned cold. With a flick of her hand, a few silver needles shot out from her hand and pierced through the soles of the people's feet. Hiss! A few gasps of surprise were heard. When those people stepped on the gravel, who would have thought that the silver needles in their boots would pierce upwards, directly piercing into the soles of their feet, causing them to gasp in pain. Because of the sharp pain in their feet, they were unable to stand firm and fell down one after another. "Ah, As they rolled down, they tried to grab onto rocks to stabilize themselves. However, the impact of the fall was too great. Coupled with the loss of balance, they rolled down the mountainside. Bang, bang, bang. A few loud thuds were heard. Not only were the people at the bottom stunned, but the people at the top were also shocked. They did not expect that the people who attacked the three people would fall down first. After seeing what happened to the three people, the others were very wary of the three people. Naturally, they did not dare to provoke them. Thus, Fengjiu and the other two slowly climbed up while looking for fire spark stones. When they reached the mountainside, the three of them found a protruding rock and sat down to rest. Although this mountain is big, there are so many people looking. Can we really find a good fire spark grass? Fengjiu looked at the old man and asked. They had found many fire spark stones, but they did not find a single stalk of fire spark grass. Moreover, they were not the only ones looking for it. Keep your voice down. They might not be looking for fairy grass. Ordinary people would not recognize it. The old man lowered his voice and said. Fengjiu rolled her eyes. Do you think these people are stupid? They've been here for years. How could they not know what you know? Even if they know, it doesn't matter. If they find it, we could just snatch it, right? The old man grinned maliciously. This was what he had in mind. However, Fengjiu was a little surprised when he heard this. He looked at him with a faint smile and said, You are the sex Mount Tai. How dare you steal from others? TSK. So what? They weren't good people either. Which one of them wasn't fighting and robbing in this place? Girl, let me tell you, you're still too inexperienced. In this world, people who follow the rules become inflexible. People must learn to be flexible and flexible. The old man said slowly. He glanced at those people and said, Do you think that if we found the angel grass first, they wouldn't snatch it? Let me tell you, if the other party is a righteous and kind person, then we can't make a move, because a person has to have principles, don't you think so? And these people are obviously not righteous and kind people. If you don't rob them, you'll just wait for them to rob you. Otherwise, they wouldn't talk about principles and principles with you. These people are all people who bully the kind and fear the evil. Chapter 2073. Is that so? That's why this old man said that we are somewhat similar. How about it? Do you want to reconsider taking me in? With a sect like mine as your disciple, you've really profited. The old man looked at her expectantly. Hearing this, Fengjiu rested her chin on her hand and smiled. I can think about it. Hearing that there was hope, the old man became very excited. Why do you need to think about it? Let's just settle it. How about this? This old man has some wine here. Want a few cups? Seeing that the old man was about to take out the wine, Fengjiu quickly stopped him. Wait, don't you know where we are? Is this a good time? Let's put this aside for now and talk about it later. AI, this old man is afraid that you'll trick me again. He sighed and glanced at her. Why don't you teach me the Taiji Fist mantra first? Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled. Suddenly, her smile disappeared. No. She turned her head and looked to the other side, her gaze landing on Zhuo Junyue. The old man saw that she was staring at Zhuo Junyue and knew that she was guessing Zhuo Junyue's background. For a moment, he didn't say anything. He took a few sips of wine from his wine gourd and looked at the two of them, but the corners of his eyes were observing the movements around them. When he caught a glimpse of a quietly moving, illuminating flame herb, he was so excited that he quickly blinked at Fengjiu and whispered, Look over there, look over there. That's the illuminating flame herb. Fengjiu was slightly startled. Following his gaze, she saw that not far from her, a stalk of herb was quietly moving towards her. Moving towards her? She was slightly startled. Taking a closer look, she saw that the herb was indeed moving towards her. Didn't they say that the illuminating flame herb would run away when it saw people? Why was it moving toward her? Is that really the celestial herb? Are you sure? She lowered her voice and asked. How could I be wrong? It's this one. There are only 2 leaves on its fiery red stem. Its roots are similar to ginseng, but the roots are fiery red, red. Hiss! The old man stuttered. In the end, he sucked in a breath of cold air and his eyes widened. Look, another one has appeared. Fengjiu looked over and saw that another stalk of brilliant firegrass had appeared out of nowhere. Moreover, it was heading in her direction again. She was astonished to see this. At this moment, the two stalks of illuminating firegrass had arrived at her feet. The old man was about to tie them up with a red rope in his hand, but he was stopped by a look from Fengjiu. After the celestial herb came to Fengjiu's side, it used one of its two leaves to gently touch Fengjiu's feet. Finally, the straight red stem bent down and pulled out the root that the old man said looked like a ginseng, but was fiery red in color. Then, it leaped into Fengjiu's arms. And Fengjiu's eyes widened in astonishment. She thought that she had seen wrongly, but when she looked again, the celestial herb that had pulled it out had really leaped into her arms and hid in her clothes. Only the two small leaves were exposed. She was stunned. She couldn't figure out what was going on. Chapter 2074. While they were still in shock, the other angel grass quietly moved from behind them. Just like the first one, it pulled itself out and squeezed into Fengjiu's clothes. Seeing this scene, the three of them didn't react for a long time. Because they were sitting on a rock and didn't move, the people above didn't pay much attention to them. Therefore, except for the three of them, no one else saw the strange scene in front of them. The old man stared at Fengjiu and said, "Tell me, what's going on?" Fengjiu lowered her head and looked at the two angel grasses hiding in her clothes. While no one was paying attention, she took them into the space and planted them in the medicine field. Then, she spread her hands and said to the old man, "I don't know either. Didn't you say it already? This radiant flame grass didn't give birth to a medicine spirit. Now, you asked me, but who should I ask? This kind of thing has never happened before. This old man has never heard of it either." As Han Yuan said this, he stared at Fengjiu and stroked his beard thoughtfully. "There must be something strange about your body." Hearing this, Fengjiu's heart skipped a beat. Something strange? What strange thing could there be on my body? She had never encountered this kind of situation before. How could she know it was wrong? But when the old man mentioned something strange, it reminded her of the chaotic green lotus in her dantian. However, that chaotic green lotus hadn't caused any trouble for her for a long time. Now, this matter shouldn't have anything to do with it, right? This angel grass is very spiritual. Although it doesn't have a medicine spirit, it's because of its innate spiritual nature that it can escape and move. The old man said, looking at Fengjiu and murmuring, "What is the reason? Could it be because of the pure, spiritual aura on your body?" Fengjiu was surprised and asked, "The spiritual aura on my body? It shouldn't be, right?" She had a mysterious spiritual body, so the spiritual aura in her body was very pure. However, this purity couldn't have caused the angel grass to pull itself out and hide in her clothes, right? Forget it. Regardless of the reason, let's discuss what to do next. The old man said excitedly. He gestured for Junue to sit closer to him. He also moved closer to Fengjiu. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw many people staring at them. He turned around and glared at them. Then, he set up a soundproof barrier. When the others saw this, they became even more curious. What exactly were those three people talking about? However, these three people's skills were too strange. If it was not necessary, they really did not want to provoke such people. Thus, when they saw the old man set up a soundproof barrier, they looked away. At this time, Han Yuanzi approached Fengjiu and said to her with a smile, "Girl, in this case, we don't have to waste our efforts to find the fairy grass. How about this? Let's go to the back and find a place where there's no one around. The two of us will stand guard for you. You can release some of the pure, spiritual aura in your body. Perhaps the fairy grass will come to us on its own." Hearing this, Fengjiu's mouth twitched. How could this work? If my spiritual aura was so useful, I wouldn't have to worry about not being able to find the precious angel grass. Chapter 2075. The reason why the celestial herb came to her after she pulled it out was probably because of the chaotic green lotus. Another reason was that the celestial herb was highly intelligent and had sensed the presence of the chaotic green lotus. However, she did not dare to reveal the presence of the chaotic green lotus. If anyone found out that she had the chaotic green lotus in her body, it would lead to endless consequences. Little girl, just give it a try. There's no harm in trying. The old man persuaded. He had not found a single stalk of celestial herb, so naturally, he hoped that this method would work. Fengjiu saw that he was insistent and said, "How about this? I'll give you one stalk of illuminating flame grass. Since we found it, let's leave." "How can that be?" The old man hurriedly said, "It's not easy to come here, and now we're here. How can we go back if we don't dig up a few more stalks?" "Dig up a few more stalks? Do you think that illuminating flame grass is cabbage? You can get it whenever you want to. Even if it's cabbage, you won't be able to get it at this time." As she spoke, she flicked her robes, dispelling the barrier that separated them as she walked back. Seeing that Fengjiu had already walked down, the old man hurriedly followed. Just once, okay? I've never seen that scene before, and I'm still curious." Seeing that he kept pestering her, Fengjiu knew that if this matter was not resolved, she would not be able to live in peace. Thus, she looked at him and said, "Let's go down and talk." Okay. The old man hurriedly agreed. The three of them came down from the mountainside. Although they were covered in dust, there were no scratches on their bodies. Seeing the three of them suddenly come down from the mountainside, the others were surprised. However, this was a good thing for them. If the three of them left, there would be no one to fight with them for the celestial herb or illuminating flamestone. No matter how they looked at it, it was a good thing. When the people below saw the three of them coming down, they could not help but take a few steps back. However, the three of them did not pay any attention to them and walked past them. "We'll reach the back after going around here. That's not where the magma is pouring down, so it's cooler over there. There are also some trees that can block the sunlight," the old man said as he led Fengjiu and Junue to the other side. Not long after they left, a group of mercenaries also arrived. It was Guan Shilin's group. When the 10 or so teams saw this mercenary, their eyes flashed slightly. This group of mercenaries was covered in blood and murderous aura. It was obvious that they had just experienced a massacre. Smelling the stench of blood, everyone naturally took a few steps back. It was easy to tell at a glance whether a person was easy to provoke or not. As for those who were not easy to provoke, they usually knew better than to provoke them. "It's here," the leader of the mercenary group said. He looked at the volcano and said, "Let's see if we can find it. Leader, if we can't find any fire spark stones, we can bring them back. The people outside are fighting for them too," a mercenary said with a grin. Chapter 2076. "Don't worry, Captain. We know," everyone said with a smile. "Captain, you're injured. I don't think you should go up," Guan Shilin said as he looked at his shoulder. Although it had been bandaged for a few days, the wound hadn't healed yet. It was too dangerous to climb a volcano like this. Hearing this, the others also reacted. "Yes, Captain, I think Xiao Guan is right. You're not fully recovered yet, so you shouldn't climb." "Yes, Captain, how about this? The uninjured can go up, and the injured can stay here guard. It's relatively safer this way," another mercenary said. "That's fine. Xiao Guan will lead you then," the captain said as he looked at Guan Shilin. "Regardless of whether you can find it or not, search around the mountainside. If you can't find it, come down." "Okay, I understand." Guan Shilin nodded and led a dozen mercenaries up the mountain. The others stayed below to guard against any sneak attacks. As for Fengjiu and the others who went to the back of the mountain, they found a place to sit down after seeing that there was no one else around except for the three of them. Hurry up. Try again." The old man excitedly squatted down beside her, while Junue retreated a little to guard the surroundings. Fengjiu had no choice but to sit down and circulate the spiritual energy in her body. However, she suppressed the aura of the green lotus to prevent it from leaking out. Whether it was the green lotus or not, she couldn't let anyone else know about this. Therefore, in the end, the surroundings were completely silent. Not even half a stalk of fairy grass could be seen. "How is it? Didn't I say it? It must be an accident." She spread out her hands as she spoke. Then, She retracted her aura and took out some barbecued meat from her space to eat. She looked at the disappointed old man and asked, "I'll give you one. I have two of them anyway. This old man will use Fire's Park stones to exchange with you. I won't take advantage of you." The old man said as he took out the Fire's Park stones he had obtained along the way and pushed them in front of her. Seeing this, Fengjiu didn't decline and kept all those things. At the same time, he handed over a small stalk of celestial grass. He glanced at him and said, "This kind of thing can't be used directly. You don't know how to refine pills or anything, so it won't be of much use even if you keep it. You don't have to worry about that. I'll just keep it." He took the angel grass and looked around before putting it away. "Junwei, come and eat something." Fengjiu shouted at Zhuo Junwei, who was standing guard. Zhuo Junwei turned around and walked towards them. He sat down beside them. The three of them sat around the barbecued meat and wine as they ate. "Don't drink too much. It's troublesome to get drunk in this place." As Fengjiu spoke, he saw the old man holding the wine gourd and pouring it into his mouth. He couldn't help but shake his head and pass a piece of meat to him. "With this old man's alcohol tolerance, how can I get drunk? It's fine. This place is quite far from the front. No one will come here. Just as well, this old man can take a nap after drinking some wine. Anyway, with the two of you standing guard, this old man can rest assured." He laughed mischievously, holding the meat in one hand and the wine in the other. Seeing this, Fengjiu let him be. With the two of them standing guard, he could indeed rest assured and sleep. Chapter 2077. In the midst of the fight, some people rolled down from the top. For a moment, screams and cries of alarm echoed. Guan Shilin, who was climbing up the mountain, saw this and said to the people below, "Let's go down first. It's not a good time to go up now." Although they were climbing up from the side of the mountain, it did not seem appropriate for them to continue climbing. However, just as he was about to descend the mountain, he raised his head and faintly saw a flash of light under the refraction of the sun on the mountaintop. Was that a Fire's Park stone? And a huge one at that. Thinking of this, he looked down at the people below and saw that the other mercenaries had safely gone down the mountain. Thus, he summoned his flying sword and flew up the mountain. Strange, why did that person go up on his sword? What is he trying to do? He went straight to the top of the mountain from the mountainside. Look, there's a ray of light at the top of the volcano. Isn't that a Fire's Park stone? Heavens, how big is that Fire's Park stone? Why didn't I see it before? Hurry up and get it. Such a big Fire's Park stone is priceless. The people below rushed up and flew up on their swords. Guan Shilin, who had reached the top of the volcano first, also saw the Fire's Park stone. However, this piece of Fire's Park stone seemed to be a little different from the others. Ordinary Fire's Park stones were black and glowing, but this one was fiery red. The color was as if it had been burned by fire. The red color was beautiful, and he couldn't help but praise it when he saw it. "This stone is beautiful. I'll bring it back and give it to my sister. She'll definitely like it," Guan Shilin murmured softly. His resolute and calm face revealed a happy smile like a child. It was an expression that only appeared when he thought of his family. He went up and picked up the beautiful red stone, which was difficult to hold with both hands, and put it into his space ring. He planned to give it to Fengjiu as a gift when he returned. However, at this moment, a murderous aura came from behind him, causing his happy smile to disappear. He frowned and turned around, only to see a long sword coming at him, accompanied by a shout. "Kid, hand over the treasure. Kid, you'll choke to death if you keep it to yourself. Kid, you got guts. How dare he take the treasure for himself in front of so many people? Hand it over, and I'll leave your corpse intact." The cultivators shouted and surrounded Guan Shilin with swords in hand. At this moment, another shout came from below, accompanied by a powerful aura. "How dare you touch our ferocious tiger mercenary group? Kill!" The members of the ferocious tiger mercenary group also rushed forward with swords in their hands. They surrounded Guan Shilin, and as soon as the mercenaries surrounded them, the sounds of swords clashing could be heard. For a moment, it was a chaotic battle. Some of the onlookers who didn't want to get involved couldn't help but be speechless. Are these people crazy? Although the Fire's Park stone is a little big, there's no need to go all out like this, right? When a man who was rushing forward heard this, he couldn't help but stop and glance at the man. What do you know? In this world, how could one succeed without risking their lives? Brothers, kill them for me. If he couldn't snatch that brat's, he would snatch someone else's. I've been here for more than half a month, waiting for an opportunity like this. As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed forward with a dozen people behind him. Chapter 2078. Kill. Kill that brat. Snatch that treasure. Swoosh. A clang. Clang. Shouts rang out along with the sounds of battle. It was a chaotic battle from midair to the ground. Because it was a chaotic battle, it was inevitable that the people around them would be injured. Some of the cultivators who were fighting Guan Shilin were furious when they saw that they were injured. How dare you attack me? Do you want to die? Take this. Hiss. Damn it. I'm going to kill you. The battle became more and more chaotic as the battle went on. Saber chi and sword chi flew all over the place, and cold light flashed everywhere. Some of the people saw that the situation was not good and had already retreated quietly. However, those who were still charging forward were either injured or killed. The people who were attacking Guan Shilin became more and more frightened as the battle went on, especially when they saw Guan Shilin waving his saber and sending out a sharp sword chi. They all shouted and quickly dodged. Some of them could not dodge in time and were cut in half by the saber energy. The scene was bloody and shocking. Hiss. Where did this killing god come from? The people who had retreated and the cultivators who had been watching from afar were shocked. Although the mystic mercenary was only a mystic, his battle strength was astonishing. Everyone who went up to him died under his long saber. Corpses lay around him, and the number of corpses around him made people shudder. After Guan Shilin killed the people around him, he turned his saber and pointed it at the ground. He shouted, "Who dares to snatch it from me?" The people who were lucky enough to survive retreated at the same time. They did not dare to get close to him. What a joke. Although the treasure was good, it was useless if they lost their lives. Moreover, this brat was too strange. He was only a mystic, but his battle strength was so shocking. He was so freakishly strong. They would not dare to snatch that treasure if they did not want their lives. The people of the ferocious tiger mercenary group came to Guan Shilin's side. The leader looked at him. "Little Guan, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Guan Shilin shook his head and looked at the people around him with a cold expression. Then he said to his commander, "Commander, I'm going to give the stone I found to my sister." The leader of the ferocious tiger mercenary group nodded. "Don't worry. Our mercenary group also has rules. Apart from a mission, we could distribute the things we find in this forest. There's no need to hand them over to the mercenary group." "Thank you, Captain," he said in a deep voice. "Ha ha ha, what's there to thank me for? This is the freedom of our group." The leader said before asking, "Did you find any radiant fire grass halfway up the mountain?" "Yes, I didn't see him," Guan Shilin said. "All right then, let's find a place to rest first. Since we're already here, we can't leave empty-handed. Let's find some time to go up again. Even if we can't find any brilliant firegrass, we can still bring back some brilliant firestones." "Okay." He nodded and followed the group to the back of the mountain towards the shade. At this moment, Feng Jiao, who was resting in the shade behind the mountain, was leaning against a rock with his eyes closed. The old man was drunk and had fallen asleep long ago. Junyue, on the other hand, was guarding him. Chapter 2079. When he saw that the group was the mercenary group he met in the forest, he couldn't help but be surprised. What a small world. He didn't expect to meet this group of mercenaries here again. The mercenary group also saw Junhua. The leader was slightly surprised, but then he laughed out loud. "It's that young master. Does this mean that the Han Yuan Immortal Monarch is also resting in front? I didn't expect to meet him again." As he spoke, he turned to the people behind him and said, "Brothers, find a place to sit down and rest." I'll go ahead and greet them. Thus, the group found a place to rest. After sitting down, they surrounded Guan Shilin and asked, "Little Guan, what does the stone you found look like? Take it out and let's have a look." "Yeah, I think I saw a very big one." Seeing that everyone was curious, Guan Shilin laughed loudly. "No problem." He took out the big stone from his space ring and placed it in front of everyone. "This is the stone. Look at it carefully. The shape is quite nice. Wow, it's so big. I don't think I can carry it with both hands, right? Wow, it's a fiery red fire spark stone. That's right. I've heard that this is a top-grade fire spark stone. It's formed after being tempered by magma. I've only heard about it before, but I've never seen it before. I didn't expect to see such a large piece of fiery red fire spark stone today. TSK, look at the color. It's really the color of fire. It's so beautiful. Yeah, it's my first time seeing such a fiery red fire spark stone." Guan Shilin listened to everyone with a smile on his face. "I think it's beautiful too. My sister will definitely like it when she sees it." He touched the big stone and said, thinking, should he ask someone to carve this fiery red fiery obsidian into a shape and give it to little Nine? "Little Guan, you're so nice to your sister." "That's right. Giving such a precious fire spark stone to your sister? You're really generous. If this thing was sold, it would fetch a sky-high price. As her brother, I've always been running around outside, so I rarely spend time with her. She even has to worry about me. So whenever I find something interesting outside, I'll keep it for her and give it to her to make her happy when we get back." Guan Shilin said with a smile as he put away the big rock. "Hee, you don't have a wife yet, right? If he had a wife, things would be different." A mercenary beside him winked and said. Hearing this, Guan Shilin grinned. "Yes, I don't have a wife. But even if I do, I believe that my wife will treat my sister as well as I do. By then, it'll be better to have one more person to dote on her." "Haha, that's because you haven't married yet. Many people put their wives first after they get married. If they marry a hag, it's even worse. They have to be controlled." "Are you talking about the one next door to your house? That woman is indeed very ferocious. Once I saw her twisting Lier's ear and lifting him up. Those curses could be heard from 2 streets away." "Ah, that's right. You don't know, but Lier often comes to drink with me after he gets beaten up. He's a man, but he doesn't have any manliness left." Chapter 2080. Others would not be able to understand the relationship between him and Xiaojio. From a moment he opened his eyes that year and saw that petite figure standing in front of him to protect him from the pack of wolves alone, he secretly swore in his heart that in this lifetime, even if he had to give up his own life, he would protect her. No matter what she did in the future, no matter if she was recognized by the world or not, he would always stand by her side. Although Xiaojio was not related to him by blood, she was more like a family to him than a blood relative. Thinking of the life-saving things she gave him the space, his face couldn't help but soften. Others said that his little sister was lucky to have him as her brother, but he always thought that he was lucky to have little Gio as his little sister. On the other side, the leader of the ferocious tiger mercenary group came to Zhuo Junyue and bowed. "Sir, we meet again." His gaze shifted behind the man and saw that not far away, an old man and a young man were resting at the foot of the mountain. Seeing this, a smile appeared on his face. Zhuo Junyue nodded and did not say anything else. "Our group is resting in front. Sir Immortal, and that young sir are only 3 people. Do you want to sit with us? We even hunted some wild game on our way here. We can share some with Sir Immortal and the young sir." The leader smiled and thought that they probably did not have much to eat here. Since they had some wild game, he could share some with them. "No need. Thank you." Zhuo Junyue's voice was still cold and expressionless. Seeing this, the mercenary leader smiled. "That's good. If you need anything, you can look for us. We will be resting here for the next few days." As he spoke, he cupped his fists and looked at the 2 sleeping people. Then, he smiled and turned to leave. Fengjiu, whose eyes were half closed, could vaguely hear their conversation. However, thinking that Zhuo Junyue was watching over them, he relaxed and rested. Soon, he fell asleep. Zhua Junue walked back and saw that the old man was snoring in his sleep while the young one could fall asleep with his thunderous snoring. It was amazing. He shook his head and sat down cross-legged not far from the two of them. His eyes were closed as he rested, but his divine sense was still paying attention to the surrounding movements. It was only about 500 meters away from here. The mercenaries were roasting game over a fire while discussing when they would go up the mountain to look for more fire spark stones. When the sky gradually darkened and the smell of barbecued meat gradually spread, not only did Feng Nine, who was sleeping soundly, smell the meat, but the teams in front of the mountain also smelled the aroma of meat. Those people followed the aroma of the meat. When they saw that it was the group of mercenaries, they did not approach. Instead, they walked around the group of mercenaries and continued to walk forward. They actually saw the three people with unfathomable strength. Seeing this, they could only quietly leave the area. The people here were not to be trifled with. They did not dare to stay in the same place with them. If they were not careful, they would not know when they would be killed. As a result, Guan Shilin and Fengjiu were both in the same volcanic forest at the foot of the volcano. However, because they were 50 meters apart, neither of them knew that the other was here. Chapter 2081. Young Master. The leader of the ferocious tiger mercenary group came over again. However, this time, he brought a large piece of roasted meat. He walked over to Zhua Junyue and saw that the youth in green had woken up. He smiled at him and said to the two of them, "We roasted some meat in front and brought some for you to eat." Fengjiu blinked and looked at the mercenary in front of him. After a while, he remembered. "Oh, it's you, young master. You still remember me?" The leader of the ferocious tiger mercenary group was in his 30s or 40s. When he saw the handsome youth in green, he couldn't help but smile. "Didn't we meet in the forest a few days ago? You were talking to the old man then." Fengjiu pointed at Han Yuanzi, who was still asleep. "Old man?" The leader's smile froze. He looked at the youth in green in surprise. There were many people who dared to call Han Yuanzi an old man. Where did this young man come from? However, he didn't look like an ordinary person. "I came over in the afternoon and saw that the two of you were sleeping. So I cut some meat for you. Eat it while it's hot. If it's not enough, we have more." The leader handed the roasted meat over. "No need. Then I won't stand on ceremony." Two voices sounded at the same time. The former was Zhua Junyue, while the latter was Fengjiu, who took the roasted meat. When he heard these two voices, the leader was startled. Then he smiled. Fengjiu took the roasted meat and glared at Zhua Junyue. This is the leader's good intentions. How can you reject it? No wonder the old man called you a blockhead. Zhua Junyue's mouth twitched. He glanced at him speechlessly and then looked away. He didn't have the face to look. When it came to food, this person would put aside all pride and dignity. "All right then, I'll head back first," the mercenary leader said before turning around to leave. "Here." Fengjiu handed a piece of roasted meat to Zhua Junyue. "Eat it." "I'm not hungry," he said, sitting quietly. Fengjiu shrugged and sat down cross-legged to eat. He also took out some wine to drink and said, "I've found the fire spark stone and the immortal grass, so I'm preparing to go back." Hearing this, Zhua Junyue glanced at her, then glanced at the drunk old man and asked, "You plan to leave while the old man is drunk?" He was sure that if she left just like that, the old man would be so angry that he would want to pull out his beard. "I didn't want to stay here for long, and as I said, I still have to go back and take care of things. I've been away for a few days, and I don't know how things are at home. I have to go back and take a look." Fengjiu took a sip of wine and glanced at the old man. "If he doesn't see me when he wakes up, he'll be fine in a few days. Besides, didn't I leave you my address? You can come and find me when you have time." Hearing this, Zhua Junyue looked at her quietly. He seemed to have something to say, but in the end, he lowered his head and closed his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Seeing this, Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and asked, "Do you have something to say? We've been together for a long time. What's there that can't be said?" Chapter 2082. Fengjiu raised her eyebrows and looked at him. You don't want to leave now? Yes, I want you to come with me to the Joie family and see my grandmother. He paused for a moment, then said, her health is not good, and she doesn't have much time left. Fengjiu's eyes flashed, and her gaze fell on his face. Why do you want to see your grandmother? You have to give me a reason. She had a faint guess in her heart, but she did not expect it to be true. He looked up at her and slowly said, my grandmother once told me to find out about my grandfather, and the emerald edge sword is a clue. What is your grandfather's name? She asked, her gaze falling on his face, not wanting to miss any expression on his face. Outsiders know that my grandfather is the ancestor of the Joie family, but only my family knows that my grandfather's surname is Chu, and his name is Chu Batian. He stared at her and said the name that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. Hearing this name from his mouth, Fengjiu's heart moved. That's right, my master is Chu Batian. I can go with you to see your grandmother, but I want to know what happened to your family. Although she did not say it explicitly, she knew that he understood. Zhuo Junhua said, I don't know much about my grandfather and grandmother, and my grandmother did not tell us in detail. She only told us a small part of it, but you can ask her personally when you see her. Fengjiu pondered. If they were really her master's descendants, then she must go and see this person. Thus, she nodded, all right, then let's go together. When the old man wakes up, tell him that there's nothing else here, so let's not waste time here. Yes, Zhuo Junhua replied, paused for a moment, then asked, can you tell me about my grandfather? How did you meet him? He died a long time ago, and I entered the secret cave of the underwater cave by chance, and found the divine consciousness he left behind. She looked at him and said, the third thing he asked me to do back then was to find his descendants and see if they were doing well. I just never expected that you'd come to the upper continent while I've been searching for you on the lower continent. I think even he didn't expect that your grandmother would come to the upper continent. Fengjiu looked at him and said, many powers in the lower continent know the name Chu Batian. However, he has been dead for many years, and people have gradually forgotten about him. His strength can be said to be one of the strongest in the lower continent. In addition to the ancient divine sword Qing Feng in his hand, he could almost defeat all opponents. However, he was outnumbered. He's nothing compared to the experts of the upper continent, but he's a real man who dares to do things. She smiled and said, after I accidentally became his disciple, I looked up many things about him when he was young. Although he was strong in the lower continents, he never bullied the weak. If it wasn't for those people who slandered and framed him for the sake of obtaining the Azure Edge sword, perhaps he would still be alive now. At this point, she sighed softly. Perhaps it was because of this tragedy that caused the annihilation of his Chu clan that he felt guilty in his heart. So he sent the Azure Edge sword into the Myriad Sword Tomb when he was heavily injured. Chapter 2083. However, ever since he was old enough to understand things, he knew that he and his father were not of the Joie family's bloodline. This was no secret in the Joie family, and it was precisely because of this that their position in the Joie family was so awkward. The old man who was sleeping soundly turned over and bumped into a rock beside him. He woke up as well. He yawned and stretched his body as he looked at the two people sitting there. He rubbed his eyes and asked, what are you two doing sitting there? Fengjiu glanced back and said with a smile, chatting. Here, the leader of the mercenary group brought some roasted meat. She threw the remaining piece of meat to him. He. Is it the one we met in the forest? The old man took the meat and ate it. He said vaguely, this old man is hungry, but there are many opportunities to eat meat here. Most importantly, it's all delivered to me by others. Hearing this, Fengjiu rolled her eyes and said, hurry up and eat. I'm about to leave. Are you going to stay here, or are you leaving too? Cough, cough. The old man choked on the meat. He quickly swallowed the meat in his mouth and looked at Fengjiu. You're leaving? He looked at her strangely. Why didn't a sly little fox like you sneak away when I was sleeping? The corner of Fengjiu's mouth twitched as she glanced at him. He was right. She had wanted to sneak away while he was asleep, but who knew that Zhuo Junhua would take her to see his grandmother? If he did not say that, she would have left long ago. Looking at Feng Ix's expression, the old man glared at her. Don't tell me you really have such thoughts? You want to sneak away when this old man is asleep? Let me tell you, if you dare to leave this old man behind, this old man will chase you all the way to your house. We'll leave the forest tomorrow morning. She suddenly asked, by the way, can the Aurora teleportation scroll send the three of us out of the forest? Hearing this, the old man sneered and looked at her sideways. How many people have you tried to teleport? No. She shook her head and said. It was precisely because he had never tried it that he asked him. Most teleportation scrolls can carry people. This thing that you said is a treasure. Could it only be used by one person at a time? She looked at him with a strange gaze and asked. If it could only be one person, then this restriction was a little too much. It couldn't even compare to an ordinary person. That's why I said you were indulging in fantasy. The old man snorted and said, once the Aurora transmission scroll is opened, you can teleport to any place above it. What about the other transmission scrolls? If you could even bring someone with you, then this treasure would be a heaven-defying treasure. How could it fall into your hands? Feng Jio's mouth twitched when he saw the look of disdain on his face. She knew that this old man wouldn't be able to take out any treasures, but after thinking about it, it was already a rare treasure, even if she was the only one who could use it. At the very least, it would only take a blink of an eye for her to return to the Phoenix dynasty in the lower reaches of the continent. Chapter 2084. Feng Jio stood up and dusted off her robes. She looked around and walked toward the back of the mountain. The old man hurriedly asked, where are you going in the middle of the night? Feng Jio turned around and glanced at him. I'm going to relieve myself. Do you want to come with me? The old man's face twitched, and he glared at her in embarrassment. He turned back to Zhuo Junyue and said, look at her. She doesn't look like a girl at all. She's clearly a little bastard. Zhuo Junyue ignored the old man and looked at Feng Jio. Do you need me to keep watch? No need. Feng Jio waved her hand without looking back. Her figure gradually disappeared into the night. Did the little girl take the opportunity to slip away? Han Yuanzi asked worriedly. He looked in the direction Feng Jio had left and shook his head. He paced back and forth with his hands behind his back, waiting for Feng Jio to return. Zhuo Junyue saw that Han Yuanzi was worried that she had slipped away and said, I invited her to the Zhuo family. She agreed, so she won't leave. The old man was stunned. You invited her to the Zhuo family? What for? Zhuo Junyue lowered his gaze and remained silent. The old man's gaze shifted and he asked, could it be that you're related to that little girl's master? Her master should be my grandfather, Zhuo Junyue said. The old man was speechless. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? About 100 meters away from here, which was also the region behind the volcano, Feng Jio sat down cross-legged at the foot of the mountain. She wanted to see if the two immortal grasses were attracted by the aura of the primal chaos green lotus in her body. She placed her hands on her knees and relaxed. At the same time, she activated the aura of the chaotic green lotus in her body. A wisp of the aura of the chaotic green lotus seeped out and filled the air. Then she quietly looked around and paid attention to her surroundings. There were more than 2 angel grasses. If she released the aura of the chaotic green lotus, would it attract more angel grasses? At this moment, she was looking forward to it and excited. About half an incense stick's worth of time later, her divine sense noticed that 2 stalks of illuminating flame grass were moving towards her. The 2 stalks of angel grass moved from the ground, stopped beside her, and used their leaves to touch her body. Finally, they pulled themselves out of the soil. One of them jumped into her arms, and the other hid in her sleeve. She was stunned for a long time. It was really attracted by the aura of the chaotic green lotus. She muttered to herself in disbelief. What made her even more incredulous was that in the next half an incense stick's worth of time, several more stalks of celestial grass came running over. Some were smaller, some were bigger, and each stalk of celestial grass seemed to have a medicine spirit attached to it. It was as if they had gained sentience, and they all came running towards her. Seeing this scene, She quickly withdrew the primal chaos green lotus's aura and stored the fairy grass in her space. She had a feeling that those people wouldn't be able to find the fairy grass. Even if they did, they would have already come to her place. Chapter 2085. The chaotic azure lotus was so powerful. Why had the old man given it to her all those years ago? Moreover, it had been quiet for so long and nothing else had happened because of it. Could it be that it would continue to be so peaceful? She felt that it was unlikely. The chaotic green lotus in her body had already fused with her. If it could no longer be hidden in the future, then what kind of trouble would it cause? She had no way of knowing all of this, nor could she estimate it. The old man, who was waiting there, saw that Fungio had not returned after so long and could not help but feel worried. Do you think she slipped away? Why hasn't she returned yet? She'll be back soon, Zhou Junyue said calmly. He was not nervous or worried. She'll be back soon? Tell me, how many times have you said this since just now? The old man stared at him and asked while pulling his beard. How many times have you asked? How many times have I said it? He said and glanced at the old man. You don't even know how to count? Have you really become old? Hearing this, the old man glared at him. You little rascal. You've been with that little rascal for so long that you've learned bad things. Are you going to bully this old man? What do you mean by that little rascal? A voice suddenly sounded and gave the old man a fright. He patted his chest and turned around with a frightened expression. When he saw Feng Jiu, who had come to his side with a smile, he couldn't help but exhale softly. Are you trying to scare this old man to death? Why didn't you make a sound when you came back? This old man thought you were swallowed by a beast. Which beast dared to swallow me? Feng Jiu said with a smile. He found a place to sit down and said to Zhou Junyue, Go and rest for a while. We'll leave when the sun comes up. Rest up first. Zhou Junyue replied. After glancing at the old man, he went to the place where the old man had been resting. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to rest. You slept for so long. Are you going to keep watch tonight? It's my turn for the second half of the night. Feng Jiu said to Han Yuanzi. He did not wait for a reply and yawned and closed his eyes. The old man looked at the two people who had fallen asleep with their eyes closed. He felt a lump in his throat before he could exhale. It was very uncomfortable. Why were they so worrisome? If it were anyone else, who would dare to ask the Mount Tai of the sect to keep watch for them? Only these two dared to treat him like this. They were really too unruly. Looking at the two of them like this, he could not sleep, nor could he sit still. Thus, he walked around with his hands behind his back. The first half of the night passed quickly, and it was considered peaceful. However, when it was the second half of the night, he felt that the atmosphere around him had changed. Although the murderous intent was restrained, he could still feel it. He came to Feng Jiu and Zhou Junyue's side and whispered to them, Wake up, there's movement. Feng Jiu woke up when the atmosphere around them became oppressive. With her eyes closed, she used her divine sense to scan the surroundings. She saw that more than 10 teams had gathered together and were surrounding them. She opened her eyes. At the same time, she saw Zhou Junyue opening his eyes and looking at her. Seeing this, she smiled. Looks like there's an ambush. She stood up and flicked her sleeves. She looked around with a thoughtful gaze. Chapter 2086. The old man said in surprise. He retracted his divine sense and said, More than a dozen groups of people against one mercenary group. This time, even if they have strong mercenaries, I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to escape unscathed. No, they're already retreating. She curled her lips into a smile. In a dark night, the mercenaries dressed in mercenary uniforms quietly retreated. They quickly retreated before those people realized that they were retreating. It seemed that their vigilance was not bad. However, among the retreating mercenaries, there was a mercenary who seemed to have received an order and came towards them. His movements were very fast, and without a sound, he arrived in front of them in a short while. Hun Yuan, Immortal Lord, our leader asked me to tell you to hurry up and leave. More than a dozen groups of people are surrounding us. If you don't leave now, it will be too late. The old man was stunned for a moment, then nodded. "Oh, we know. You guys go first. Take care," the mercenary said, and quickly caught up with their mercenary group. When her divine sense swept over the mercenaries, she suddenly saw a familiar figure. She was slightly surprised and a little stunned, then she chuckled. "I didn't expect to see him here. It's a pity that I only saw him now." The familiar figure in the mercenary uniform was her brother, Guan Shilin. Thinking of him, she couldn't help but smile, and the smile on her face widened. The more Han Yuan immortal lord and Zhuojun saw her standing there smiling, the more confused they were. Zhuojun didn't ask because he knew the old man would definitely ask curiously. Sure enough, when he turned his gaze to the old man, he heard the old man's voice. "What are you smiling about? Why are you smiling so strangely?" Feng Jiu released her divine sense and saw that her brother had retreated with the mercenaries. A large group of people quietly disappeared into the night. She then retracted her gaze and smiled. "Nothing." As she spoke, she crossed her arms and rubbed her hands. She rotated her waist, and her eyes were filled with a sly smile. "The moonlight tonight is really good. Since we can't sleep, let's loosen up. Loosen my muscles." The old man glanced at her and said, "You're not a warm-hearted person. What are you planning?" "What do you mean by not being a warm-hearted person?" Feng Jiu snorted and said, "They gave us barbecued meat to eat. No matter what, we should help them, right? Why would you be so kind? I don't believe it." As the old man spoke, he gestured towards the direction that the mercenary left and asked, "Is there someone you know in there?" "Yeah," she replied with a smile and did not say anything else. Instead, she looked ahead and listened to the sounds coming from there. "Ran away? Why is there no one here? Why did he run away? Could it be that someone leaked the information? How is it possible for someone to leak the information? We don't have any relationship with that mercenary group. They must have sensed something and ran away. The fire is still here, and they haven't had time to clean up this place. They shouldn't have run far. Chase after them." The murderous aura that was originally restrained completely diffused from their bodies at this moment. The footsteps that were originally light because they were afraid of being discovered also became disorderly at this moment. Chapter 2087. However, just as the dozen or so teams were about to give chase, they suddenly saw 3 figures standing in front of them. Everyone was stunned when they saw the old man and the 2 young men, especially those who recognized Han Yuanzi. At this moment, hesitation appeared on their faces. The other party was Master Han Yuan. If they were to fight him, they were afraid that, thinking of that very likely outcome, the leaders of a few teams quietly gestured for their teams to retreat and quickly retreat. Seeing the teams retreat, the others were stunned. One of the teams asked in a daze, "Why are they running? Didn't we agree to work together? There are only 3 people and they're already scared off?" After saying this, that person came to a realization. That's not right. Why are they running when there are only 3 people? Since they ran when they saw the 3 of them, could it be that the 3 of them are all powerful figures? The leaders of the remaining 9 teams were still staring at the 3 people in front of them, sizing them up. Unfortunately, even with their strength, they couldn't figure out the other party's strength. They couldn't help but hesitate when they wanted to attack. "Who are the 3 of you? Why are you blocking our way?" One of them shouted. At the same time, he attacked the green-robed youth with his aura. He wanted to use his aura to test the other party's strength. But who knew? "Why do you care who we are? If you know what's good for you, leave all your valuables behind. Otherwise..." Feng Jiu snorted coldly. Her words made the old man and Junyue's lips twitch involuntarily. So this was her plan all along? Besides helping the group of mercenaries to stop these people, he also wanted to plunder all the treasures on these people. Ruthless. Too ruthless. She was a bandit. It didn't matter if she was a bandit. But how could she drag them, 2 good citizens, down with her? "Girl, this old man is still the sex Mount Tai. Say, if news of what happened tonight spreads, won't my reputation be ruined?" Master Han Yuan sighed with a worried expression. Feng Jiu glanced at him and said, It's not like you haven't done this before. The first time is unfamiliar. The second time is familiar. What's there to be conflicted about? Besides, if you don't want the news to spread, it's simple. Just kill them all. And naturally, the news won't spread. If it really doesn't work and the news gets out, then they can only praise you. Her voice paused, and she raised her chin towards the people in front of her, indicating, look, these people are all ferocious. How can they be good people? You robbed them because you robbed too little. The old man's face twitched as he muttered. This old man knew that following you would definitely lead me astray. It's such a pity that my grand sect, Mount Tai, would one day be reduced to being a bandit. What are you mumbling about? If you really don't want to do it, that's fine too. Go to the side, and when the time comes, you won't get a single thing from us. As Fengjiu spoke, he looked at the people in front of him and raised his voice. Hurry up and hand over everything you have on you. Otherwise, don't even think about escaping today. Hearing this, those people cursed angrily. You brat, do you want to die? Do you know who your grandfather is? You. Chapter 2088. Roar. A cry of alarm rang out, followed by the roar of the sacred beast. Following the roar of the cloud-swallowing beast, a powerful pressure that could be seen with the naked eye spread out in the air. This pressure enveloped the entire area, causing everyone's bodies to stiffen as they felt a chill run down their spines. In that instant, the gigantic devouring cloud beast pounced forward, like a fierce tiger pouncing on its prey, pressing down on the young man who was cursing Fengjiu under its claws. Under the pressure of its claws, the sound of bones breaking could be heard, accompanied by the man's scream. No! Save me! Save me! As the cry for help fell, swallowing cloud bit off that person's neck and swung it, throwing the bloody corpse in front of everyone. That neck looked like it was on the verge of breaking out, and that person's eyes were wide open in shock, causing everyone to break out in cold sweat. They could not help but take a step back, their faces filled with fear as they stared at the youth, and the sacred beast that was elegantly wiping the blood from the corner of its mouth. What the hell? They actually saw the word elegance on a bloodthirsty sacred beast? However, that sacred beast was just squatting there, lazily wiping its mouth with its front paw. It even stuck out its tongue, which somehow made them think of elegance. I'm going to die of boredom. Old White also ran out from Fengjiu's space with a whoosh, flying over everyone's heads in the form of a white dragon, blocking everyone's back, laughing excitedly. Master, are we going to take care of them? Moo, mutated beast? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the snow-white dragon and the strange horn on its head. Their faces turned pale with a swoosh as they turned to look at the young man in green with shock in their eyes. What was the background of this young man? It was fine to have a sacred beast, but how could there be such a rare mutated beast? Not only were the others shocked, even the old man and Zhuojunhua were shocked by Fengjiu's contracted beasts. They knew about the sacred beast, but where did this mutated white dragon come from? How could he have two such rare contracted beasts? More importantly, shouldn't normal people only be able to contract one beast? Why did she have two? If they knew that Fengjiu had more than two contracted beasts, they would be even more surprised. Fengjiu glanced at Lao Bai and then said to the frightened people, "What do you think? Are you going to obediently hand it over? Or do you want us to kill you and then take your things? Think about it carefully. Don't regret it too late." Hearing this, the old man and Zhuojunhua stood quietly behind her. From the looks of it, there was no need for them to do anything. She could handle it herself. The old man stood behind Fengjiu and looked at her strangely. Sure enough, there were traces to be found. From the first time he met her, she had directly swindled his treasures and left him behind. This person had done this kind of thing more than once or twice. Looking at how familiar she was with this, she must have done this kind of thing no less than 100 times. Thinking of this, he stroked his beard. Why did he feel that she was simple and honest that day? He had really been deceived by her pure appearance. Chapter 2089. But if they didn't hand it over, they might not even be able to leave this place alive. If we give you our things, you'll let us go? One of them frowned and asked, his gaze landing on Fengjiu. Of course, I'm not a bloodthirsty demon. Although you guys aren't good people, at least you don't have to die. Leave your things and go. Fengjiu smiled and stared at them. Hearing this, those people looked at each other, and one of them asked worriedly, what if we leave our things behind and you attack us again? Fengjiu raised his voice, his face full of astonishment. How could that be? How could I do something so immoral? You guys have to have faith in my character. Hearing this, Han Yuanzi and Zhuo Junyue's mouths twitched. Character? All right. They felt that they didn't see any character in her, and the credibility of her words wasn't high. This was their experience in cutting skin. Those people didn't think so much, but they didn't have any other choice. If it was just the three of them, it would be one thing. Even if they went all out, some of them might still be able to leave alive. However, in addition to their unfathomable strength, there were also two powerful contracted beasts here. If they fought, they didn't have the confidence to escape unscathed. But if they could keep their lives by handing over their things, even if they were unwilling, it was still better than losing their lives. At this moment, looking at the people who quickly retreated when they saw these three people, they cursed in their hearts. Could it be that those people already knew that these three people weren't to be trifled with? So, they quickly retreated? Damn it. At least they said that they would work together. If they wanted to retreat, they should have warned them. Now, even if they wanted to retreat, they had nowhere to go. They could only obediently hand over their things. After some hesitation, they took off their things and retreated step by step. However, at this moment, the voice of the green-robed youth sounded again. All of you better be obedient. Otherwise, I'll let my sacred beast strip off your clothes. At that time, it'll be ugly. Hearing this, those who still had some things on them froze. Although the youth didn't say who he was talking to, they inexplicably felt guilty, as if those words were directed at them. In the end, they could only resist the urge to curse and put down their things on the ground. They raised their hands and retreated step by step. This time, I really don't have anything. Han Yuanzi and Zhuo Junyue were already indifferent to Fengjiu's words. They looked at the things on the ground and then looked at Fengjiu. Just to speak, they saw her turn to look at Zhuo Junyue. I'll have to trouble you to keep those things. Okay. Zhuo Junyue responded and went forward to pick up the things on the ground. He watched as those people fled after retreating to a safe distance, then turned back to look at Fengjiu. Why are you looking at me? I'm a man of my word. Since I said I'd let them go, I'll naturally let them go. My integrity is guaranteed. Fengjiu said with a smile. She glanced at Tun Yin and Lao Bai. You two go into the space. Hearing her words, Zhuo Junyue couldn't find anything to say. He just picked up the things and handed them to her. Chapter 2090. Here are the items, Zhuo Junyue said and gestured for her to take the items. Fengjiu looked at the items in his hand and put them away with a smile. She sighed softly. I've gained quite a lot from entering the volcano forest. I knew I should come out more often. Look, I've earned a lot. Lao Bai stroked his beard and glanced at her. What do you mean by earning a lot? You're the one who robbed us. He really couldn't tell that this little girl was so capable in this line of work. He really didn't know what this little girl used to do. She put the items away and planned to organize them later. She would keep the useful items and sell the useless ones. Finally, she looked at the two of them. Let's go. It's good that we're out of the forest now. Let's go out on our swords. It should save us a lot of time. Are we really going to the Zhuo family? The old man looked at her and asked. Yes, let's go to the Zhuo family. She nodded and took the rainbow feather from her waist and threw it into the air. The beautiful feather changed and became bigger with a whoosh. It floated lightly in the air. This treasure is not bad. The old man was surprised. He looked at the beautiful rainbow feather and stroked his beard, asking, This is the rainbow glaze feather, right? I didn't expect a little girl like you to have so many treasures on you. You didn't rob this too, did you? Fengjiu tapped her toes and leaped onto the feather. She sat down cross-legged and said, Are you going or not? If not, I'll go." As soon as she finished speaking, she took the lead and flew high into the air. After passing through the air pressure, she flew even higher and headed out of the forest. "Wait for us," the old man shouted and threw out his flying device to chase after her. Junue summoned his flying sword and followed behind the two of them. However, when they passed through the air pressure, their bodies fell slightly. In the volcanic forest area, the heat in the air formed a pressure, especially in midair. The pressure was especially obvious. Ordinary cultivators couldn't fly on their swords under this pressure. Therefore, most of the people who came to the volcanic forest to train were on foot. Another thing was, if they directly flew through the forest on their swords, it wouldn't be considered training. Among them, only those with real strength could withstand the pressure in the air. However, just like Feng Jiayu and the others, they had to step on the aircraft and fly up into the air. They had to break through the air pressure to fly up to a high altitude before they could truly fly on the aircraft. Behind him, Junue flew with the wind on his flying sword. His gaze was fixed on the green-robed youth who was sitting on the feather. His sleeves were fluttering, and his black hair was fluttering. His hands were casually propped up on the feather behind him, and he looked at ease and contented. He couldn't help but think, she's really a strange person. The more I interact with her these days, the more I feel that she's unfathomable. Whether it's her way of doing things or her strength, she's always exceeded my expectations. The first time they met, she cured his poison, took the teleportation scroll from the old man, and played a trick on the old man. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. When they met again, he heard how she used a trick to save those people. When she dealt with the fiendish cultivators, she was ruthless and merciless. Her clean methods and strength were shocking. Later, they found out that the youth in front of them was actually a woman. Chapter 2091. Thinking of her forceful methods, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile. She was probably the only one who could do such a thing. He really didn't know that when his grandfather took her in as a disciple. Did he know that she had such a personality? Thinking of his grandfather, he had an indescribable feeling in his heart. On one hand, he felt that there was finally news about the matter that his grandmother wanted him to inquire about. On the other hand, he felt that it was a pity that he could only learn about his grandfather from her. He knew that in his father's heart, this matter had always been on his mind. If his father found out about this, what would he do? At the same time, in a corner of the lobby on the first floor of the Heavenly Pill building in 100 River City. Lung Hua, don't you feel that there's something wrong with Little Fool recently? Du Fan came to Lung Hua's side and asked, gesturing for him to look at the busy figure in front of him. What's wrong? Lung Hua looked at the account book in his hand and asked without raising his head. Everything's wrong. Du Fan took the account book away from his hand and tucked it under his arm, saying, a few days ago, she often went to your side and often called you Big Brother Lung Hua, Big Brother Lung Hua, but now it's like she's treating you like you're transparent. Don't you think it's strange? Also, have you noticed? Why do I feel like she's lost a lot of weight recently? And her face has been pale recently. Could it be that I really went too far last time and she's sick from holding it in? At this point, Du Fan couldn't help but feel a little worried. Little Fool, this girl was quite likable. She didn't have any ulterior motives and was also very straightforward. Especially as the daughter of a family, she didn't put on any airs and treated people very sincerely. Although she was smiling every day, he always felt that her smile was a little gloomy. Hearing this, Lung Hua looked at the girl who was busy in front of him. He saw that she had indeed lost a lot of weight recently. Her originally round face was now slimmed down to a sharp chin. However, her face seemed to be a little pale, and she did not look as happy as before. I'll talk to her later, Lung Hua said, and then when she wants to go back, tell her to go to the backyard. I'll go too. I think I might have said too much last time. Du Fan sighed and felt a little guilty. She was a good girl. If she really took things too hard because of his words, then it would be strange if his master didn't skin him alive when he returned. However, as the two of them were talking, they suddenly heard a cry of surprise coming from the front. "Waiter, waiter, what happened to you?" The two of them looked towards the front and saw that the busy waiter had suddenly fainted. Fortunately, there was a medicinal maid beside him supporting him so that he didn't fall to the ground. Seeing this, the two of them quickly went forward. "Look, look, I said that there must be something wrong with her." Just as I was saying that, something really did happen. As Du Fan spoke, he anxiously ordered one of the maidservants, "Go, tell Fan Lin to go to the backyard." At this time, Lung Hua had already gone forward to carry the girl and quickly walked to the backyard. Du Fan followed beside him. Fan Lin, who was on the second floor, also came to the backyard on the first floor after hearing the maidservant's words. As soon as he entered the backyard, he was pulled inside by Du Fan. Come, quickly go and see how that waiter is doing. She suddenly fainted in front of us, and her face is frighteningly pale. Before the master left, he told us to take good care of her. If he came back and saw her like this, it would be strange if he didn't beat us. Chapter 2092. Let's take a look at her first. We'll talk after that. Du Fan dragged him into the room and came to the bedside. He pointed at the unconscious girl on the bed and said, Quick, let's take a look at her." Fan Lin sat down on the chair beside the bed unhurriedly and reached out to check her pulse. After a while, he withdrew his hand and said to the two, "What's wrong with her? She's a rich young lady. How did she become malnourished?" What? Du Fan was stunned. Lung Hua beside him asked, "How is she? Why did she faint?" "She probably didn't eat well. In addition, she used too much energy and has some depression in her heart. It's not a big problem. As long as we give her something to eat when she wakes up, her body will slowly recover." As Fan Lin spoke, he stood up and looked at the two of them. He asked strangely, "What kind of work did you give her? How did you make her work too much and use up too much energy? Don't tell me you took advantage of the absence of the master to bully her?" "How could that be?" Du Fan quickly said, "Actually, it's like this." He briefly told Fan Lin what happened that day. After hearing Du Fan's words, Fan Lin nodded in realization. "I see. No wonder she has depression in her heart." He smiled and stepped forward to pat Lung Hua's shoulder. "Watch over her for the next 2 days. Give her some medicine. I'll get someone to boil some medicine for her to drink." "Didn't you say she was fine? Why does she need to take medicine?" Du Fan couldn't help but ask. "Open some qi to disperse the depression. The rest will depend on you guys to open her." As Fan Lin spoke, he walked out with large strides. "You stay here and watch over her. I'll get someone to boil some ginseng soup and send it over," Lung Hua said to Du Fan. He was about to walk out when Du Fan grabbed his hand. "Don't. You stay here. I'll take care of this." As Du Fan spoke, he hurriedly walked out without waiting for him to react. However, when he reached the door, he paused and turned back to ask, "Oh, right, Xiao Er fainted. Should we get someone to inform her family?" Hearing this, Lung Hua looked at Xiao Er, who was still unconscious, and said gently, "Let's not talk about it for now. We'll talk about it when she wakes up, lest her father gets worried." "All right, then I'll be going," he said, before walking away. Lung Hua was keeping watch in the room. Seeing that the person on the bed hadn't woken up yet, he sat beside him and watched quietly. The door creaked open, and Lung Hua, dressed in black, walked in. "Sister." Lung Hua stood up and greeted her. "How is she?" Lung Shuang looked at the waiter on the bed and asked. "She said she didn't eat properly and fainted from hunger. Also, she's depressed," Lung Hua said. Hearing this, Lung Shuang looked at Lung Hua and said, "When she wakes up, talk to her. Let her rest well for the next few days and recover her body." "Okay, I got it," Lung Hua said. Seeing his sister turn and walk out, he got up and walked her out. After returning to the room and sitting by the bed for a while, Xiao Er slowly woke up. Seeing that she was awake, Lung Hua smiled gently. "You're awake." When he saw that she was about to get up, he motioned to her. "Just lie down. I'll talk to you for a while." "Brother Ling Hua, what's wrong with me?" Xiao Er pulled at the quilt. She was a little nervous and restrained. Lung Hua smiled gently. Have you not eaten properly recently? Chapter 2093. Seeing this, Lunghua looked at her and asked gently, have you been unhappy recently because you heard what Du Fan said to me? No, no. She quickly shook her head, afraid that he would misunderstand. Actually, you don't have to be like this. You were originally very good. You don't have to care too much about what others think. Shower narrowed her eyes. She pulled the blanket and didn't speak. She didn't dare to look up at him. Lunghua didn't say anything else. He just looked at her and asked with a smile, "Do you want to know how we followed Master back then?" Ah. She looked at him in shock. Can I tell you? There's nothing that can't be said. Everyone in the Phoenix Guards knows. However, they only know the general idea and don't know the details. He smiled and said gently, Master is someone who isn't afraid of what the world thinks and isn't bound by the world. You know, back then, he sat by the bed and told her about what happened back then with a gentle voice and a smile on his face. Xiao listened attentively. Her eyes were sometimes filled with amazement and sometimes looked at Lung Hua in disbelief. She looked at the undisguised respect and conviction in his eyes when he talked about his master. She was mesmerized by the light and expression in his eyes. She never knew that they had such a past. She didn't even know that such a thing had happened to them in the past. It was like this back then. Not only did Master change the fate of my brother and sister, she also taught us how to behave and deal with things. We always believed that Master's taste was unique. Someone who could be chosen by her must be special. At this point, he smiled gently, and his gentle gaze fell on her face. Not only did Master say that you were very good, but after interacting with you, we all know that you are indeed very good. You really are very good like this. You don't have to change anything. Just follow your heart. Don't give yourself too much pressure. Hearing him say so much, Xiao knew that he was trying to enlighten her. She looked at him with some guilt and said softly, Brother Lunghua, I'm sorry for making you worry. Hearing this, he smiled and asked slowly, Your body is a little weak now. I want you to rest at home for a few days to recover. Do you think that's okay? Then, can I come again in the future? She asked nervously. Of course. He smiled and reached out to stroke her head, saying, You should quickly recover before coming over to help. Seeing him touch her head like a child, she was a little shy and a little happy. She nodded. Well, I will take care of my body as soon as possible. I will eat well when I go back. That's good. Lung Hua nodded. At this moment, he heard the door open. He turned around and saw Du Fan carrying something in. You're awake? Du Fan looked at the waiter on the bed and said with a smile, It's good that you're awake. The food is ready. Come. I'll help you sit up, Lung Hua said, reaching out to help her up. Thank you. She thanked him softly. Perhaps it was because her state of mind had changed, but her appetite had also improved. Smelling the fragrance, she couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Seeing this, Du Fan and Lung Hua looked at each other and smiled. They brought the things to the small square table beside the bed. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.